Takes off. And the freshman gets the corner. It's a foot race. Knocked out at the one. Now you see the talents.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Toafili in motion. Got a man down the sidelines. It's him, Toafili, and he is off. One man to beat, cuts it back, and brought down to the 20-yard line by Sheridan Jones. They're going to say touchdown. He landed on somebody. Toafili with a magic act, and they're calling it a touchdown.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's Edwards with a lay. Donovan Edwards down the sideline. Gets past Ransom. Donovan Edwards. Touchdown, Michigan, the Don.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Looking for an option to the end zone. He goes. Touchdown, Canes. Jacoby George.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
This time in the shotgun. Play fake. Aller to the end zone. Touchdown. Penn State. Khalil Dinkins.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
They're going to go Wildcat and snap it directly to Mappa. He tries the right-hand side. He finds Painter. That's a Clemson touchdown.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go. 365 Sports on this Wednesday afternoon. Hope you're doing well. You know, Max Olson moved from theathletic.com to ESPN, where he was prior to going to theathletic.com, and he has a story out today. We'll get to that. Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina on the set, David Smoke here, and we appreciate your time. If you haven't already, if you've been on part of the early show, the chat room, hit the like and subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed, we'd appreciate it. If you have, spread the word as we continue to grow here on 365 Sports. But Max today with his first article since joining ESPN, and it's about the transfer portal, giving everybody in perspective a lot of numbers. And you look at how many players, how many athletes have hit the portal. That's not a surprise. Most of it's pretty much what we knew. But you look at the Power Four, 1,273 players signed in the transfer portal, 1,078 G5, and then 2,351 overall players have gone into the transfer portal. That's even a higher number than I can fathom. If there's 130-something teams in Division I or FBS, and you put an average of, let's say, 10, if you even did 10, I mean, okay, that's 11. What is that? That 1,100?
Yeah, 1,300.
It just seemed like a lot of people, a lot of players, a lot of names. But there are the numbers. He updated that. He'll join us tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, and I can't wait to get into some of the bigger numbers with him. It was weird. If you look at the retention numbers versus the teams that lost a bunch, the only team that lost a bunch that didn't struggle a year ago, at least to some degree, or have was Alabama, and all the rest of them struggled. And then most of them also had coaching changes, so that would put Alabama in that boat. But Alabama had 31 guys gone, which is a huge number for them. But then when you look at the ones that are retention, I couldn't really find a common thread between those. Like there wasn't. It was just kind of, I guess they're in a good spot with their coach. You know, that's kind of how it looked to me. It was such a weird thing. There was no Venn diagram really with the other one. They all kind of were in the same boat, rough season or lost the coach or whatever. And then the ones that kept a bunch of players was more like, okay, just all different situations. So that was kind of a weird thing.
883 players, Craig, jumped into the portal that ended up in a Power 4 or FBS level. 883, which is almost twice as much as they did the year before. And usually that means somebody's scholarships aren't available. Perhaps that goes down to the high school level. But with Max with those numbers today.
Yeah, I don't know what that trickles down to or whatnot. I think it's become pretty clear that, high school recruiting's still very important, but it's taken a little bit of a backseat compared to the transfer portal in terms of importance. So, yeah, I mean, there's thousands of people moving around. I don't think that should really be surprising at this point, given how hectic it gets when those windows are open and how much we talk about it ad nauseum during those windows of now this guy's in and this guy's in and this guy's committed here. I mean, you could have told me 3,000. I would have believed it. I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about the exact numbers and what those look like, but you could have said fill in the blank, and I would have been like, yep, sure, that sounds about right. The only thing I would have balked at was if you had said it was like, less than a couple hundred. I'd be like, that's obviously BS because there's no way. It's got to be closer to 1,000. So, yeah, that jives with the chaos, if you will, and just the amount of crazy turnover on rosters all across the country. So glad to see Max back doing his thing and, still doing the portal stuff, and I look forward to what else he's got up his sleeve with ESPN.
So there's numbers on the transfer portal. More from him. He'll join us tomorrow at 4 o'clock. The All-American team today released by ESPN. Chris Lowe had this article, and here are the names of the players from the Big 12 who are ranked or a part of at least the first or second team, including McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona. He is one of them. Travis Hunter, not a surprise, first-team all-purpose player from Colorado is on that list as well. Secondly, on a running back, Ollie Gordon was first-team running back. Taj Brooks was a second-team running back. So there's a couple of Big 12 players. Tight end, Brant Keithy from Utah. And then also Luke Kandra, the Cincinnati offensive lineman, both second-team. And so those are the players from within the Big 12 on the preseason All-American team put out today. There's a bunch of them. I know Brett McMurphy will have one among some others, but that's the preseason All-American team with some of the higher names, at least now, as we enter the season.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see the guys on it. I mean, Ollie Gordon is probably the best running back coming back in the whole country. I was a little surprised not to see Quinshon Judkins, but he's also in a timeshare situation. But as far as Big 12 players go, those are the ones you'd want to hit. And between the P4, like they kind of hit the big spots. I think there's probably some other guys who are clearly going to sneak up there and be on the list that are unsung right now and flying under the radar and not from some of those premier programs. But, if I'm picking the offensive lineman, I'm picking a Johnny Cornelius and Parker Brailsford and guys like that. That's who I'd pick. So, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, but not surprised, especially to see Hunter, McMillan, and Gordon on the list.
Yeah, I mean, the Big 12's got a good stable of running backs, and I'm sure that won't prevent from, still hearing the age-old soured opinion of, it's all pure air raid and no defense, like as we talked about at length yesterday. But, again, that's just a total sign for you to zone out on anybody saying that still and talking about the Big 12 with any type of authority. So, yeah, there's good backs. Ollie Gordon, I am very curious as to what his follow-up is going to look like, and obviously had an issue this offseason that we talked about at length around media days. We're behind that now, and he's behind that now, and that's, all in the past, hopefully. And so now it's about football, and I look forward to seeing what he could possibly do to top last year, which would include, more team-oriented goals, I would imagine, like winning the Big 12 championship. And feel like Tech's O-line could be better, and he did all that behind an O-line at Tech last year that wasn't the best. So his follow-up will be really interesting as well. I mean, no surprise to see Teteroa McMillan. He's right there in the conversation for best wide receiver. Brant Keithy coming off the injury. Not a lot of people anticipated much of a slow rebound for him, so that's good, and good to see him on there, and that obviously adds a bit of ammo to Utah. And nice to see a Cincinnati mentioned because they're not getting a whole lot of love these days and really haven't since the playoff run. It's been a trying couple of years in this transition, but good to see Luke Kandra, giving them something to talk about that's good and positive, and hopefully something they can, kind of spiderweb from.
There was a comment from Steven in the chat room about confused with the wide receivers. Have they not seen Egbuka? at Ohio State. Well, there's only 4 wide receivers. The wide receivers on the first team include 2 of them, Luther Burden from Missouri, and it's hard to argue against him, and then McMillan at Arizona. The backups, and I say backups, second team names were Trey Johnson, Oregon, and also Torrey Hunter. I say and Torrey Hunter, who's a stud at Colorado State. Again, it's one of those that Egbuka's probably in that conversation, but there's 4 names for the entire preseason All-American team. And that's a bugaboo for me. To have just 2, there's no team now, even those who run the ball quite a bit, that usually don't have at least 3 kind of receivers on the field at one time.
Yeah, you would usually take away a run, like they're doing 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end. But to ESPN's credit and to The Athletic, they both did it the right way when it comes to the offensive and defensive lines and the defensive backs, where they picked a center and a guard and a tackle and a center and a guard and 2 defensive tackles and 2 defensive ends. And
you also missed there's an all-purpose player. So there is.
I said Travis Hunter.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, at the very beginning.
I didn't hear you say Travis Hunter. That's weird. All right, that's my fault then.
No, that's
but
okay.
That fills up one of the wide receiver spots / tight end spots.
That's true.
So that I think is incorporated there, but obviously still no Emeka Egbuka. So that's a valid question. I mean, he's going to get a lot of love other places and already has, but I think it's a lack of room more so than disrespect in the second team all-purpose Ashton Jeanty, a running back. So I like to see him getting love and obviously a huge fan of his, but I can understand where you're looking for Emeka Egbuka to appear on a list like this.
Paul sent this to me. Colorado projected to play in what will be 10 one-possession regular season games per K4 ratings that we had, of course, on the show. And also on that list, for example, Liberty, Vanderbilt, New Mexico, only projected to play in 1 such game, and maybe because of the feeling of they may not be involved, but Liberty's going to be a part of many games that they're supposed to win. But Colorado at the top with 10 one-score games at least projected based on his ratings.
And West Virginia with 9 projected. TCU, Nebraska 8 one-score games. So
that's not good. That's 1-7 right there.
But TCU, USC, notables on that line. Florida in one-score games. So good for the projections for them on that 8. And then you get more and more, and as you whittle down, and when you see 1 or 2 one-score games on a schedule, that usually means your schedule. Like, you might be really good, but also your schedule sucks.
In terms of the one next to your name, well, I mean, Liberty and Ian McCaw aren't trying to play anybody. I mean, we know that, so it's not surprising to see Liberty down there because I'm sure he said it publicly. He said it publicly when he was here, that they weren't trying to go and schedule. They're trying to get the situation they got last year where, hey, let's be the highest-rated G5 and get a sweet bowl game. And I think after their appearance against Oregon, however, that's not going to work as much in their favor, but now you have an expanded playoff, so they'll probably still go that route. But, they don't really play anybody. They don't. That's good for Caden Salter and his numbers, but I think that's going to hurt you tremendously if you start talking about, anything bigger than your all-conference MVP type of an award, because inevitably somebody's going to go, well, who did you do all that against? And then when they see you play Oregon, and granted Oregon's very good, but when Oregon, makes you look like you don't even belong in the game itself, that's where people have questions about that tactic.
I think this is going to blow up in their face a little bit at Liberty, in that what Ian is trying to do with the schedule there is he's trying to get them to be undefeated so they have a chance to be that 12th team.
Right.
And if they're the 12th team in the playoffs, say 3 of the first 8 years, right, because they're 12-0 every time because of their weak schedule, he's going to be like, oh, we're a 3-time playoff team. But if all 3 of those times you lose to Oregon or Ohio State or LSU in the first round by 40 points, what are we even doing? You got there, but it's a little bit of stolen valor from somebody, who had somebody on their schedule and lost to maybe a couple of P4 teams, but was 10-2 and maybe played Florida and Georgia Tech close and just lost in the end.
Listen, you can do it once. You can kind of fool the system once by having an unbeaten record. But then you also then need to follow it up with a bowl game. But we don't need to be hypocritical here because the Big 12 teams have been blown out against big boys in some of the bowl games too. But if you can do it once, but then eventually people kind of catch you in the system.
Yeah, but K-State going through a Big 12 schedule, winning the conference, beating a really good TCU team that goes and plays for a national title and getting blown out by Alabama is not Kansas State like rigging the system to get to that said bowl game. That's what we're saying is Liberty sets up the easiest possible schedule. Ian McCaw did that when he was here for the intention of winning as many games as possible to put them in a nice bowl game. And it worked last year, and then they got destroyed against the first real team they played, and that's what I'm saying is that it's not going to fool anybody anymore when they see that regular season schedule.
That's kind of what I was saying. But the thing about what Ian was doing as well is he became the AD that hired Bryles. They hadn't been to a bowl game in 15 years.
Yeah.
They played the absolute worst 3 or 4 non-conference games on purpose just to get 4 wins, and then they'd have to just win 2 conference games. And then they never really changed it much once they started winning and becoming much more relevant.
It was a good plan to start.
Which is what he's done.
It's a good plan to start out, but then when they got good, it didn't help them, especially when they played in the BCS weekend games or the New Year Six games. When they played those New Year Six games and they played teams that they'd never seen the likes of before, it was a struggle for them. And they lost, the Fiesta and Cotton Bowls. I do think in large part.
Those teams were good, man.
They were really good.
They had beaten some good teams in the Big 12. I'm talking about the ones in 10-11 in that time period.
Yeah, but I do think that ultimately that like long-term scheduling hurts you. I think it does hurt you in that, you can, because look, yes, they beat Texas and they beat Oklahoma. They beat some good teams in the Big 12, but they knew them. It's when you don't do well against teams that you don't know that I think that really hurts you because.
Well, we now know why they lost to Michigan State because they had video. They had practice video.
And there's all of our time on Liberty for the entire rest of 2024, basically.
Exactly
but
right.
I mean, I think it's just simple. I just don't think that tactic's going to work. I think you're going to have to be the best G5 team to get a playoff nod now because I think people are wise to what you're doing, and you're not going to rig your way into the playoff every year as the G5 contender. So, I mean, one score game, I don't know. That seems awfully light. Whereas, you look at a lot of the 6, 7, 8 one-score games, and there's a lot of Big 12 teams in there. There's a lot of SEC teams in there, and, that just means you're going to have good teams on good teams. And also have average teams on average teams. We have teams that are close to one another, and so I'm looking forward to seeing these close games. I mean, Colorado with 10 on paper, the most, that's brutal potentially if they're what they were last year and not a much better version. But, a lot of people feel like they're going to be a lot better, and we'll know because they're going to play a hell of a schedule to prove whether they are or not. But, West Virginia's got 9 on there. But, again, there's a lot of Big 12, a lot of SEC because those teams match each other pretty closely, so you're expecting one-score games. So, that's to be expected in some cases. But on the other end of the spectrum, I mean, Sam Pittman's got to be counting his lucky stars some ways, 2 one-score games, or is that because they're not expected to be anywhere close? Oh, wait, that's not a good thing for them, is that they're not expected to be within anywhere. Whereas in the same line as them is Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State, all expected to have 2 one-score games, and those are like your early playoff favorites. So, that could bode very well for those schools if it's that much of a cakewalk to the college football playoff.
All right, those teams. There are 2 games. Like Michigan's playing. Ohio State plays Michigan and Penn State, or something like that, or Oregon. That's the 2 one-score games. Now, yesterday evening, Garrett sent us. It's a video, but I don't think we can run it. But here's the picture of the Air Force football team and their uniforms and helmets. And the video is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's even got like guys in those helicopters and combat gear, and all of a sudden they walk through. It's fantastic. We will see the Falcons in Week 3 when they come to Waco to play Baylor in that game at McLean Stadium.
Well, great. I just bought an Air Force helmet. We just got one from Green Gridiron.
Oh, okay.
Now, they're going
to have to send you an update.
Here's the thing. So when I looked at them, and all the military academies are like this because they're doing, there's teams that do alternate uniforms that are just god-awful. Just awful. And then the military, they have a higher standard to live up to, obviously because they're the military. Everything that all 3 of them come out with is amazing. It's all like amazing.
I've never
really
seen one of their uniforms, Army, Navy, Air Force, or whoever, ever come out with one that I did not just like drool over.
Yeah, they're all pretty cool that we've seen over these last few years, and I think that really that boils down to Nike's clearly using all their creative minds to design the service academies and then throwing up their chalk for everybody else that's apparently gotten new uniforms. That's why we see the base set on everybody who's got new Nike uniforms basically this year. Starts to make more sense of, like, why does everybody have the same shoulder stripes? Why does everybody have, like, the same base? Well, they're all too busy working on these sweet Air Force uniforms and Army Navy uniforms. I guess that's what's happening because these are as unique as they get, and they're really cool looking. And there's a lot of the details on, the reasons for all the insignias and the meanings that those have. And I always enjoy reading the kind of breakdown of what all the different patches and logos and things mean. So you can do that with these as well. And it's a nod to, I just had that here, to honor AFSOC with the Air Power Legacy Series is what they're doing with these uniforms. So, yeah, look forward to seeing those. I doubt we'd see those in Week 3 against Baylor on the road, but it would be pretty cool if we did.
Yeah. Now, to be fair to the other schools that maybe don't have this kind of historical context, Navy, Army, Air Force have, hundreds of years of American history that they can honor, as opposed to universities. I mean, they have cool things, but nothing as cool as AFSOC or the Tuskegee Airmen or, the Audie Murphy unit or something like that.
Just the military of history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's so many these uniforms are to honor General Patton. Oh, well, look, that makes sense.
I guarantee you when Army and Navy start working on theirs for this year in December, it's almost like it's this top secret as any nuclear type of codes.
You might be able to get that easier.
You might. So Paul sent this also. Grace College, Paul. Tell us about Grace College. They came up with their uniforms, and they actually have logos on the uniforms. Are you telling me nobody has done that yet?
Grace College, an NAIA school, of which I was too lazy to even look up where they are. Grace College.
Indiana.
Okay. In Indiana, Grace College in Indiana, an NAIA school, very smartly, as soon as the rules are changed, it says you can put a patch on your jerseys. They need money more than everybody else does.
Probably.
Yeah. So they were like, okay, let's go out into our community and find somebody to put a patch on the jerseys. They did it, and there you go. So there's the answer to the trivia question 10 years from now. Who was the first college to put an advertising logo on their jerseys? Grace College, an NAIA school in Indiana.
Do you know what Zimmer Biomet does? Biomet does?
No, I've no idea.
They're a Fortune 500 company, an orthopedic giant that generated $7.3 billion last year.
So they can afford the patches.
They're right there next to them in Indiana.
So they can afford the patches.
Well, the NAIA was the first to pass the rules allowing this, so it makes sense that their team, one of their teams, would be the first to debut the logo on the jerseys. And as far as the glimpse that we got, it's very understated and very non-noticeable unless you're just looking for it. I don't think too many people are going to have their eye catch that Z and get bogged down and not be able to concentrate on the game like the big fear is, right? And these aren't NASCAR patches like the other fear is. These are just what you see in the NBA and Major League Baseball, basically. I don't think that that's going to be too much of an issue for those that don't like the uniforms getting spoiled by ads. So long as they stay this way and they don't compound, and then you've got patches everywhere like the NASCAR uniforms or suits. But yeah, these look okay, and congrats to them on making a little bit of history. And they're not going to be they're the first, but they're definitely not going to be the last. And I wonder what that avalanche of schools announcing similar additions to their uniforms, when that starts to get underway, and just how crazy that gets with the number of schools that'll be doing it. I would imagine everybody is going to use it at some point.
I can't imagine. I wonder though about those 5 or 6. And I even think they will, the ones that don't change their uniforms ever. They pretty much are standard, Alabama, Texas, etc. if they will do anything, but why not? I mean, they can demand more money for any kind of a patch on their uniforms.
Those schools aren't ever really in desiring, more money or anything. So I'm sure they'll be fine with what they have.
No, they've never made decisions.
Yeah, they've never been driven by money at those institutions. So I doubt that they're going to, try to scrounge a few more dollars out of everything.
Garrett, we're going to leave the other story for later on, a topic that about what you can or cannot do or should not do during football season. I'll give you one note, and then we come back with Joseph Duarte. Houston had a scrimmage last night, Houston football. First-year coach Willie Fritz. So yesterday it was Brett McMurphy had the story about Tennessee and the logos on the field. And, man, people came out of the woodworks. Texas State apparently has already done that. And there are some other schools that have logos already on their stadium field. But that was out there, and so we're starting to see much more of that. It's to the point now where nobody's now, I don't know who was first, but those are going to happen. And you could say, I would think by the start of the year, how many of the 130-plus FBS schools do you think will have a logo of some sort monetarily on their field by the time they start?
This year, 40%.
40%.
I think this is a big money deal. So that kind of happened late in the game. Every company now is first quarter dollar, second quarter dollar, third quarter dollars. You know how that is. So it makes it hard to sell anything that just pops up. Like if we all of a sudden decided that we wanted to go to some event in October, it's August right now. If we were trying to go find a corporate particular sponsor for it, it would be more difficult because they've already decided the money they're going to spend in October.
They've already decided their fourth quarter.
Yeah, they've already decided October and all that. So they'd have to find new money for it. And we're not even asking for that much money, right? So imagine if you are, say, Arizona, and you are asking Frito-Lay for an extra several $1 million a year to have their logo on the field. They're going to say, like, listen, we're very interested, but this is probably a next year type thing because
it might be a commitment, but they don't pay till January.
Yeah, exactly, something like that.
I mean, I think the thing you're missing here is that the advertisements are going to be out there, but it's preserving the name. It's not going to be Pilot Knoxville Stadium.
No,
it's going to be Neyland Stadium, and I think that's the notable thing is that, you're going to see signage, but it's a hell of a lot better than, seeing the corporate naming of a historic venue. So I think that was a smart thing. Obviously, Tennessee wasn't going to just roll over and let Neyland Stadium become some corporatized thing. But I'm sure there will be a smaller school where the name doesn't matter as much that they will have.
Or the name of the stadium also gets logos
on the field or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're just putting logos on there, everybody's going to have logos sooner rather than later. I don't think we're going to really be that bothered by it ultimately once the action is starting on the field. I'm sure somebody will go further than others, and they'll be made fun of relentlessly for their giant, Pepto-Bismol logo or something. But seems like Tennessee's doing it, a good way where it's, definitely going to be noticeable, but not anything that takes away from the history or, the image of Tennessee, so to speak.
That Pepto-Bismol could have been at McLean Stadium on the field last year with the kind of year that they had. But I'm pumped. All right, when we come back, Joseph Duarte, Houston, Willie Fritz. He's next. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, full-service butcher shop, and also a full-service bakery that they have when you walk through the front door. The butcher shop's off to the back. That's off to the back, a little bit to the left, where they also have their seafood, pork, and poultry, the beef, and different cuts from hamburger to different cuts of steak and brisket in the very, very back. It's a butcher shop. They will make it or give you the size of what you want, and then, of course, wrap it in that butcher paper, and then it's yours to go take care of off to the right where the cashier is. On the right-hand side of the wall, there's a deli. There's fresh baked bread every day, kolaches baked every day. They also have all sorts of pies and sweets and sometimes even specials that they have on some of what is in the butcher shop is off to the left side in that same area as you have when it comes to the deli. The necessities you have for tailgating or need, they also have them at Waco Custom Marketplace, from charcoal, pellet fuel, cold beer, wine, soft drinks, marinades, seasonings, and yes, tri-tip brisket and more. Brian Bauer and the Bauer family, ages and ages, generations of being a part of the meat business. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
When you work with a bank, you should expect the best of everything. That includes face-to-face personal service and the kind of community banking care that only comes from one neighbor to another. That's exactly what you'll get from the First National Bank of Central Texas, where you will know your banker works just as hard as you do. Once again, that's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Settle for nothing less than the first. Member FDIC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Get behind the wheel of the 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland at Allen Samuels in Waco. Choose between 2 or 3 rows and save $12,000 or take advantage of 0% financing. Looking for something smaller? Drive home a 2024 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 and save $9,760 or take 0% financing and get $3,000. Don't miss out during the Make This the Summer of Jeep event at Allen Samuels in Waco, where we deliver your next adventure. See dealer for details.
Come by. Let's be friends.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Joseph Duarte, coverage University of Houston Chronicle, joins us on 365 Sports. Joseph, I always follow your timeline. It's always filled with such great information, and I enjoy it. So did they have a scrimmage last night, and how, in your opinion, what did you walk away with what you saw?
Well, it was, first of all, thanks for having me on, guys. First of all, it was more of just a regular practice. It was the first time all camp they'd been able to have a night workout under the lights, sort of simulate a game day. They've had some construction going on over at TDCU Stadium with a new video board and some suites and the operations center. So haven't had a chance to go over there. So really, same type of practice, just had some coaches up in the press box to work on the headset communication stuff. But really, the main takeaway was this was the first practice since Willie Fritz told us a couple weeks ago that they would start to sort of wean down the guys who were in competition for first and second team. So the emphasis was on getting those 2 units a majority of the work moving forward from last night to when the season starts.
Joseph, I mean, Donovan Smith has been getting a lot of positive pub outside of Houston. There's a lot of NFL draft people that think that if he makes a turn this season and quits turning the ball over as much, that he could be someone that the NFL teams like because of his obviously unbelievably great athletic skill set. Do you think they see that turning around a little bit for him?
I think they do. And, you look at, he certainly passes the eye test and seen the scouts that have been out at practice. And, I think there is some interest. And you alluded to the turnovers. I thought he did a lot better with that late in the season, but he was also dealing with the labrum tear that he suffered in the Baylor game. So he played the last 3 games injured. But, he's been cleared. He didn't go through spring, didn't do much, but since probably the beginning of June, he said he's been able to air it out. They still have him on what Willie Fritz calls a pitch count. He did throw Monday. He threw last night, and then they're off today. So they're able to kind of keep him fresh and bring him along slowly. But if things work out the way many believe that he can, take that next step, especially working with Sean Bell, former, Baylor guy, and Kevin Barbay, they feel like that, yeah, he could be a guy that could be in position to go, maybe that second day type guy in the NFL draft.
Joseph, Tony Mathis Jr. out with a torn ACL, man. It seems like the running backs in college football just should be wrapped in bubble wrap for the next few days. But I know they have a couple of guys that they've had lead the team in rushing the past couple of years that are still there in that room. But what do you think the Tony Mathis Jr. news means? How big, if at all, is that to what Houston had planned?
Well, he's the experienced guy. This was a senior year. Didn't get a ton of carries last year, but they used him in so many other different ways, especially pass protection and stuff. So he was an experienced guy. So that's where you can't replace that. But you mentioned some of the others. Parker Jenkins, it was a freshman last year. He led the team in rushing. He's back. Stacey Snead is sort of that change of pace guy, real quick. So they bring him back. So those are the two veterans that they have returning. And then they got a guy from the Central Texas area, Rashawn Stanford, who was Killeen ISD's all-time leading rusher. He's healthy, so he'll be in the mix. He's looked really good in camp. And then you got true freshmen, DJ Butler and Jamarian Burnett. So Willie Fritz has said that if you're a freshman, it doesn't matter if you can contribute and you can get the job done, you're going to see playing time. So it'll be interesting to see how they do it, because in this offense, he likes to run the ball, and they've had, 40-plus average on carries per game. So I think you're going to see a number of these running backs getting moved in and out every game.
I hated the fact that Sanford got hurt last year. We watched him when he was at Harker Heights. Just a young man that can I know it's a college game, but he can take on a lot of carries too, and explosive, but also very strong, even in between the tackles. Joseph Manjack IV is a load. Last year, he really improved what he did as a freshman. Your thoughts about, can he take that next jump and be a possible all-conference type receiver?
Well, he's the fourth. I want to know what the other three are like, because this guy is, he's a very dependable. First, he's just an eccentric kind of character, personality-wise. I mean, he doesn't wear gloves. He's not your typical type of receiver, but he makes plays. And if you're in a pinch, he's a guy that you go to. And I think this is his time. This is his moment. The first couple of years he's played behind different guys. A couple of years ago, Tank Dell was on the roster, and then just last year you had Sam Brown, who ends up transferring in the offseason to Miami. And here's Joseph Manjack, and he makes plays, and I think he's ready for that increased role, because you look at even though they lose a Matthew Golden to Texas and a Sam Brown, they're not in bad shape. They've got at least 7 or 8 guys that they feel like they can run in and out of this offense and play 3 and 4 wides if they have to at times. They have Stephen Johnson. They went out and got Mekhi Muse from Georgia. He's going to be electric in the running game. You have a couple of Tulsa guys and Marquise Shoulders and Devin Williams. And, they're just going down the list. They feel like they've got guys that can contribute. But Joseph Manjack is in my opinion, he's the top of the ladder receivers this year, and a guy that really, I think it's his time now to make that next step.
Their offensive line, Joseph, is a little bit kind of a smattering of experience and new guys. How do they feel about that unit overall?
Well, that's the area that is still very much in flux, and how they decide to go. Tank Jenkins at right guard, he's a 7th-year guy, I believe, and he's the only holdover. They were going to have a young guy at center, and then, of course, everything's new. They're replacing an all Big 12 tackle on the left side in Patrick Paul. So, right now I would say that they're, for those 4 other spots outside of Tank Jenkins, there's probably 7 to 8 guys still in competition. And that's where, Willie Fritz has said the first 3 or maybe 3 games, they're going to run a lot of guys out to see what works, not just on the O-line, but we're talking every position. And then that's sort of, outside of about 12 guys that he feels like are starters right now, those other 10 or so spots, you're going to have a lot of different guys going in, and I think you're going to see a lot of that when it comes to the offensive line in particular.
Joseph, this is going to be a much different team by the end of the year than what it is right now, obviously, and even what it is through the first month of the season. But just how much kind of talk and anticipation has there been for that non-conference schedule, which I don't know what it looked like when they were kind of cobbling it together, but you arrive here in 2024 and damn, man, UNLV off 9 wins and Oklahoma and Rice, which is always the rivalry game there. You're going to learn a lot about Houston, I would say, in that first month, aren't you?
Yeah, Willie was probably wondering where the Stephen F. Austin that he gets next year in the Prairie View and places like the FCS schools were when they did this. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I think they have, according to Phil Steele, maybe the 7th toughest schedule in the country this year. That they have 5 ranked alone just with the Big 12 schedule, and then you think if you get rid of Oklahoma and they're in the SEC and you play them in Norman. The only thing worse, Dana Holgerson's first game ever was against Oklahoma and a certain future Heisman winner on the road to begin his tenure at Houston. So I guess things could be a little bit tougher for Willie, but yeah, it's going to be tough. Rice beat them last year in double overtime, so it's no gimme early. And I think most places have them in that 4-win range in terms of what the expectations are. So they've got their work cut out for them, but I think eventually, they get this thing turned around. It's just probably going to take some time.
Well, Willie Fritz wins wherever he's at, but it doesn't always happen immediately. Sometimes it does, depending on who you take it over. For them to be a bowl team, what, in your opinion, must happen? Because they're going to have to win a couple of games that right now, and same thing with, like you said, that group of 4 to 5, 6 teams at the bottom of the Big 12. But for them to get to a bowl game, what, in your opinion, things must happen?
Well, I think offensively they're going to be okay. I think they get that solved. Where I think it comes down to is on defense. Can they get stopped? And, this is a defense that's gone through a complete makeover. They've got one really true returner out of the entire starting unit. So, and a lot of it's going to fall on the secondary. What I've seen in camp so far, I think this is a secondary that's got a lot of athleticism. They make plays. They're really aggressive, and that's what Houston needs because they have not been able to stop anyone the last couple of years. And if you can't stop anyone and you're allowing 40 points a game or close to that, I mean, you put a lot of burden on your offense, and that's just not going to cut it. So I think if they can get the stop and it falls on the defense, I think this team can pull out a win here or there because, there are some opportunities. Cincinnati on the road, for instance, maybe even BYU on the road. You win a couple of those and you hold serve for some of the home games, you're in that position that maybe if you're 5 or 6 wins, I think that's a successful season in Willie Fritz's first year with that schedule.
Joseph Duarte with us, covers Houston with us for 365 Sports. Go ahead, Paul.
Joseph, you mentioned that Rice game last year. Was that something that the fans maybe – I mean, and Dana Holgerson's tenure was kind of turning in the direction that it did anyway, but was that game for the fans kind of the point of no return, at least
it was the death blow.
Yeah, it was? Okay.
That was the moment because between the way it happened, falling behind 28-0, still having a chance, and then after the game, pretty much throwing your team under the bus, which Dana had no filter. So Dana said what Dana says. And against a rival team that you felt like you're better than. I mean, you've always been better than in the series. Those things all added up. And the worst part of it was the following week was your Big 12 opener, the biggest game possibly in the school's history. And the air got sucked out of that. And it just was not the same the rest of the season. And that just took all the momentum. And it was, I would venture to just say that it was the beginning of the end for Dana at Houston.
Joseph, where are they with the athletic director search? I know you've probably gotten peppered with that question, 20 times a day, every day since that was announced that they were going to be searching. So, just where do they find themselves at the moment, and what's kind of the anticipation level at this point?
It's the longest search in history. You're going on about 2 months now since they let Chris Pesman go. But, a lot of factors came into it. It's not all on the hurricane, but, travel schedules, vacations. And just frankly, trying to compile a list of candidates they feel like are in the that's somebody that they feel like they could go to. I'm hearing that we're probably in the next week. That's when they hope to have something finalized. There's been some names, the non-traditional AD types like a David Fletcher from here at the NRG Stadium deals with the Texans, and then some of the others that are more well known, like an Eddie Nunez from New Mexico is a name that I've heard quite frequently, and somebody who, from what my understanding is, he's at the top of the list. So they're working through it. I think this is the final stage of interviews. Probably three candidates left at this point, and I think you would have to have somebody in place before the season opener. That would be ideal, because otherwise, the school year's already beginning.
I don't remember the timing of the Rice game, and you mentioned that was the death blow that started the momentum downhill. But what would have happened had they beaten Texas? Would that have changed the outcome?
Anything against Texas, I've learned on this beat, sort of, for if you get a dollar for something, Texas is like an extra $5 or something added to it, added to the till, because it's Texas and you have wanted to beat them all these years and they won't play you and all that stuff. So I could have seen things possibly going in a different direction, because that game would have meant a lot more to a lot of alums, especially big alums. And the way it ended with the call and how they felt like they didn't get a call down the stretch, that could have changed things. But then, you still had some opportunities. You were beating Oklahoma State at one point in the first half before losing that game. And then, you go to UCF and then that's the end of the season. So, yeah, you could put that under the what if file, but it certainly would not have it would have helped Dana a lot more than sort of been one of the final nails in the coffin.
Joseph, thank you. Appreciate your time. It's a great follow. If you haven't, you should. Joseph Duarte covering Houston football and also men's basketball and athletics with us on 365 Sports, and his thoughts about last night, the practice with much more of a type of a scrimmage look or feel because of the coaches in the box and much, much more.
Yeah, I don't know how good this year is going to be for Houston, but I don't really fret too much over what the record looks like this year if I'm a Houston fan. I want to see them win games, obviously, and the more the merrier, but this has no bearing on the coach at this point. You've now turned the page, and so it's a fresh start, and I don't think the first chapter is necessarily going to have a lot of great moments as far as the 2024 season goes, although, they rolled in, they beat Baylor in overtime last year, and even though Baylor sucked, that was still a big win for Houston because it was a conference game against a team they'd been wanting to be in a conference with for forever. Nowhere on the level of had they beaten Texas, but it was still a big deal. So they had some moments like that, and they could have a moment or two like that this year. But I do think you lean towards them having a rougher go of things, but in no way is that going to shake my faith in what Willie Fritz is eventually going to turn that place into, because I think that was a really good hire.
Yeah, and I just like him. I like him. I like the levels where he's won, what he did at Tulane, what he did at Sam Houston State, Georgia Southern, where he's been, and I enjoy listening to him. And he's seasoned, and again, the fact you could just put, if you can, some sort of a barrier around Houston and get 15 or 18 of your signings every year, high school wise, out of there. But more importantly, what you can get in the transfer portal from those who left elsewhere from Houston as high school commits and signees, and where they are to go play some college football elsewhere.
Well, they're trying to with the big-time quarterback in 2026. But, again, being able to hold on to him will be the tale that that'll be the roller coaster they're riding for the next year plus. But, yeah, that's part of what you're talking about is landing guys like that and just building off that. So, yeah, I don't think you go in necessarily with huge expectations and you appreciate the high moments there are. And maybe there will be more than I expect. I mean, that's entirely possible. I think we can pretty easily say they're not contending for the Big 12 title this year.
Yeah.
Anywhere else they could fall in, because the Big 12 is a total mess of a conference where everybody's got 8 one-score games on their schedule because everybody's so even, as we were talking about earlier. But, yeah, I think that it's going to take some time to get that to where Willie Fritz wants it, but there should be some excitement for sure as this all gets lifting off here over the next few weeks.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I saw Stuart Mandel, who's going to join us next week. He was putting together his predictions of conference records with some of the other conferences. Like today, he did the SEC. I think he had Georgia 7-1, and he had Texas and Alabama 6-2, and just the responses to that. And so who knows? With the Big 12 being so much up in the air, I have no idea. Do you want to keep going here, Paul? And we got a break.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
I got the football season weddings tweet.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. We got the football season's wedding tweet. This is one that I saw pop up on my timeline. There are people going after each other on whether or not you should schedule a wedding during football season. And some guys are saying, listen, you do what you want to do, and you don't bow to the pressure of football season. We've discussed this before, but here are the games. October 12th is apparently the most reserved day for weddings the rest of the year. This October the 12th.
It wouldn't be.
These are 4 games.
I can tell you right now, it would not be for a Craig Smoke wedding for sure.
No.
It would not be for a Garrett Ross wedding.
Nope.
It would not be. Look.
Wouldn't be for anything.
It wouldn't be any of it.
Yeah.
The only thing I got, and it's not because I'm a college football fan, it's because we're college football reporters, essentially, or whatever we are. I don't know, media personalities, whatever you want to call us.
Let's do what everybody else is. We're experts.
Yeah. Yeah. We're
Paul, tread lightly here.
Yeah. I don't know, whatever we are. But because we have, to do games and we all have all the things that we do, my only thing was we can't get married in the fall. We cannot get married in the fall. It cannot happen, and that was a little bit because, Amanda liked the idea of getting married in the fall, but I'm like, here's the other thing. My friends would be so pissed. And this is before we decided to do Hawaii, but my friends.
Yeah, most of them didn't get to go anyway.
Yeah, they didn't get to. But they're not mad because of Hawaii. But if I'd been like, October 12th, they'd been like, Paul. But they would have been one of those things like, does anybody have any objections? Not to Paul getting married in general, just to the fact that I'm here.
You either would have gotten a bunch of responses quickly, like, what the F, or it would have been silence.
Yeah.
But those are the 4 games, October 12th, the most, planned wedding day of the fall. And those 4, what could be alphas, bangers, are on that particular date.
I'd be like, we're going to have a fajita buffet. And they're like, F your fajitas.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah, it says in the tweet, one of the 5 most popular dates in 2024. So that's what that is. And, that's a hell of a day to book.
It's one of the 5
wedding.
most popular, but it's the most popular for the rest of this year based on the other ones.
The best one of the rest. But, so choose wisely, but I definitely wouldn't choose this particular Saturday, even though game times haven't been announced and there's probably going to be a couple prime times. You could probably, 11, you're getting Texas and Oklahoma, at least they're midday-ish.
Yeah, they're 2:30. They're set.
You'd have to do like early in the morning, if anything at all. But yeah, not a wise choice if you're a college football fan to have your wedding on this particular day, because that's going to be awesome for the rest of us to sit back and watch.
Yep, to be able to just sit back, enjoy, and enjoy a game after game after game. And then some of them, who know, they might compete against each other when it comes to the times of which they kick off. Stormy asked me about having football needs a Sagarin or a Jerry Palm type person to do ratings. They have those, and one of them is Cody Kellner, who's a Baylor grad, who's a PhD in statistics, and we had him on back when he was with the BCS.
I honestly feel like
I think we have
got
20
all of
of
that.
them.
I don't think we need any more, honestly. I think college football.
We just mentioned K4 ratings, yeah.
I think college football's got the whole, individual, independent, this is the best style that incorporates everything possible compared to the BCS, compared to the committee, compared to, between Bill Connolly and I saw an article about Bill Connolly the other day, and it basically was talking about him being, the godfather of college football analytics, and he's been doing that stuff for years. He's on this show, a couple times a year or whatever, and a lot of his previews, his Big 12 preview just came out a couple days ago. It's always interesting to read through that, but he spawned, and whoever else you want to credit with that, but he's just the one that comes to mind. But K Ford ratings, and there's the now I'm going to blank. Now, if you asked me off air, I'd name 20 of them. But
Stats of War guy.
Stats of War, or there's a billion of them. There's a billion ratings.
I wonder if the Dunkel Index is still.
Yeah, but actually, officially tying it in to probably what the texture's alluding to, or having it more incorporated officially, like a Sagarin ratings is so often referred to. I don't know. I think everybody just kind of takes what they like and translates it, the way they like to do it. But there's certainly no shortage of formulas and those types of people out there that'll put that type of information out there.
Cody Kellner is still doing some stuff. It might be not a bad idea. PhD researcher and football statistician.
There's not a problem with the stats that they get. The problem is the people who ingest them and the directives they've been given.
Oh, you mean narratives?
I mean, yes.
Like, okay, this is how it needs to lean?
Yes. So I can walk in and hand Craig on the committee like, hey, here's all the numbers you need. And Craig's like, great. And here's what these mean, Craig. And he's like, well, I thought it was my job to determine what they mean, in my opinion. They're like, to a point, but your opinion needs to be SEC.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they do give the committee a lot of info. I don't know exactly. Next time we have a committee member on, I would actually be curious to see, like, hey, do they hand y'all the quote unquote Sagarin, or do they hand you CFB Wizards stats or whatever? And I just threw that out there. There's probably an account like that,
I get it.
I mean, there's definitely things that they use. So I would be curious to know what they do use and in what capacity they use it, because there is so much information to digest. And yes, it's ultimately in the eye of the beholder how you want to digest that and spit it out on the other end in terms of your conclusion or your opinion. But yeah, I would be very interested to know what they actually use for those committee meetings and how that all is incorporated into what they decide to do.
I just Googled while you were saying that, what rankings or ratings do they use for the College Football Playoff Committee? I don't know if it's going to pop up anything or not, but that is something to look at, and might be something we eventually get whenever we do ever again. And Mac Rhodes, when he joins us, of what, like, paperwork or folders or whatever in front of them in a computer that they get. When we come back in the 4 o'clock hour, we start with Ricky Thompson. He does sideline analyst work for Baylor, played wide receiver there, also was in the NFL. BJ Raines in the 5 o'clock hour covers Boise State. Eric Galko at 425, who was at Big 12 Media Days in Vegas. He came by. We could never really get him on, and we could never really say much to him. He's looking at what prospects do the Big 12 teams have that are among those getting the most attention. He'll join us too. And Kyle Yeomans, DallasCowboys.com at 5:30 in Paul's Top 5. This is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI, state-of-the-art imaging machine. Saving you money, because $497 is what you will pay or less for an MRI. So if you have been seeing a doctor, whether it's your family doctor or somebody who's an orthopedic surgeon or somebody who's been working with you when it comes to pain and trying to alleviate it, to try to diagnose it, to try to give you a way to feel better, whether your back is sore and achy, and it's not just because of just being sore and achy, there's something else. Like, does your back create some other problems in your hip or down your leg? Or is there something wrong with your shoulder, knee? Ideal MRI in the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco will find out what is the problem. Is it a muscle that's damaged? Is it a ligament that's torn or damaged? Is it something else? They'll find it because they have that machine. I've been in it, and they will find it, believe me, and then send you and your doctor the images so then he or she can look at them and then make a decision of what to do next to help you, to get you out of that pain. Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff of partners, IdealMRI.com.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long-distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line. With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Don Humidor, you're home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoke. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets, sirloin steaks, bone-in ribeyes, boneless ribeyes, and even prime rib. Cut specifically the way you want, the thickness that you want. They're all delicious. They have Norwegian salmon, mahi-mahi, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey, variety of cheese, and several options of sausage links, and even regular jalapeno or cheese snack sticks, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, and ground beef, marinated beef or chicken fajitas, and always large briskets and tri-tip available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, a full-service butcher shop and bakery, open Monday through Saturday. The Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION Solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Ricky Thompson, former Baylor wide receiver, played with the Redskins in the NFL, sideline analyst for Baylor Radio, joins us on 365 Sports. Ricky, thanks for your time with Paul Craig. I'm David Smoke. Ricky was at the scrimmage Saturday evening. I was there, but it was afterwards, and Ricky wanted to kind of pick your brain. What did you see? And I know it's still early with so many moving parts and the transfers, et cetera, new offensive coordinator. What did you see?
Well, I think, Smoke, it's always tough for me to judge a scrimmage when you're going against your own guys. And I think, first of all, you don't know, is the offense scripted or do they have the option to adjust through the scrimmage when sending plays in? I think that's a huge difference. I know we had a lot of guys out. I thought the defense looked much better than the offense did. Offensive line, I thought, struggled. Again, it's hard to know if that's partly because they couldn't adjust or they were scripted and had to stick with the play that was called. I think defensive line, guys, I don't know. This may be the best one we've had in a while. When we go back to Apu and what he had in the middle and what he meant to that D-line, of course, he was backed up with some pretty good guys with Terrell Bernard and Jalen Petrie, too. But I just think maybe up front we've got some depth that may be pretty productive up front. I was really pleased with that. I don't think we got to see a lot from the receivers outside. That was hard to judge because I think quarterbacks didn't have a lot of time. Just so hard to tell in a scrimmage. I'm ready for a Saturday, to tell you the truth.
I bet you are. Richard Carr Motors, one of the sponsors of our Baylor Bear Hotline. In this segment with J.J. Joe or Ricky Thompson, Alliance Bank, Central Texas, where customers have confidence their financial needs are in good hands. Paul?
Ricky, the quarterbacks have not separated themselves yet, and they're getting down to, where they got to make a decision. From what you saw, does one provide a distinct advantage over another outside of maybe DeQuan Finn's athleticism?
No, I didn't see that in practice. And again, Paul, I'll go back to, is it the question of a scripted offense, or is it a question of not much time, or all of the above? I think pure throwing motion, I think Sawyer's probably ahead of Finn, just to the way he delivers the ball. I think there's no question that as far as feet and escapability and the ability to make a play when things blow up, Finn's head and shoulders above Sawyer in that regard, which doesn't mean he's necessarily a better quarterback. But I think maybe with this team early, till they get this offensive line adjusted, maybe the advantage goes to Finn just because of that speed. You can't teach 21 miles an hour and running ability. That's either you have it or you don't. You guys may have seen some of the tape from the Ohio State game last year. I thought Finn made two incredible runs against a really good football team on the road. So I think with that advantage, I'm going to be surprised if he's not the starter. And I think you give him the ability to either play into that position and keep it or play his way out of it. We'll see.
With all of the new faces, both on the roster and on the sidelines, did anything in terms of just kind of the demeanor, the confidence levels, the energy levels? I know sometimes we can blow those things out of proportion, especially talking about a practice, Ricky, but did you get a sense that you were watching a different team that was much different from what you saw maybe a year ago?
Craig, yes. The answer to that is easy, yes. I think that the confidence level, I think that the attitude, I think that's just the feeling you get, and I know that sounds crazy. I'm not exaggerating. I just can't think the feeling you get around the guys and the coaches, there's no comparison. I think there's a dramatic change there. I think that can reflect into a football game too, with just attitude and, maybe even a little bit of meanness. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You have to maybe check these guys to see which one has a knife in their sock. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you've got some guys out there that'll hurt you. And I think that's something that we've been missing, and that's pretty exciting to me. And I'll tell you something that's different, and we laugh about this, but they look different getting off the bus. I mean, if you could just stop the game after you get off the bus, these dudes look like players. I mean, you've got 6'7", 6'8" offensive linemen that weigh 320 pounds. D-line guys are huge. Some of these transfers in look like dudes. And I think the speed level out there this year is different too. Just there's some things that give you a chance that you didn't have last year, and I think that's pretty exciting. Now it's got to gel. You got to put it together, and you got to block up front. But I think there's some opportunity, and I think particularly this defensive front seven could be really good. Outside, you've got a ton of speed. There's some exciting things, and just getting back to the spread and what Texas high schools run, what 95% of the high schools in Texas run this offense in some form or fashion or some version. And that, to me, as an old receiver, is pretty exciting. But even on both sides of the ball, I just think there's opportunities that we didn't have last year. I
saw a comment from Kyler Jordan. It was after one of the practices this week where he mentioned you said something about that meanness, but he also said that they're tired. He was a part of last year. They got sick of what happened, and they had to deal with it throughout the offseason. What is the difference, Ricky, though, as a player yourself, in saying that you're tired of losing? That seems to be kind of a default, and actually doing something about it.
Well, I hate to go all the way back to the time when I played, but we are having a 50-year celebration. Guys, that just doesn't sound right. But it's 50 years from a team that was 2-9 to one that won the conference title year over year. And I think the difference there is, first of all, it's got to be an attitude going into the year. But then you got to win some games. You just got to perform on the field. You can talk all you want to talk, but ultimately it comes down to you got to win games. And I think if you win some early and some difficult ones early, then I think things start to roll, just like 21. You won some games early, really close games that could have gone either way. But I think this year in particular, with what's happened last year and the players they've added, that this team needs early success. And that means winning games. I don't mean just playing well. I think you have to win games. And pretty tough road. You got one on the road against Utah. You got one on the road against Colorado. But you know what? I think you got to win one of those two. And you got to beat Air Force at home, obviously. Get off to a 3-1 start, then you never know from there.
How do you see the coaching dynamics different? With Dave Aranda calling calling the defense, Matt Powledge and kind of back into the developmental role of getting him to be that defensive coordinator. It's completely different than anything we've seen Dave do here as opposed to before he got here when he was at LSU.
Yeah, it is. And I think maybe that's some of the advantages of Patterson being here through the spring. Just anything that Dave could get out of him that helps with the fact of being a head coach and also calling plays. But, you got to remember, too, it may be unusual for us. It may be unusual for Dave, but it's not uncommon for a head coach to either be on the offensive or the defensive end of the play calling. And I like it. I think it gets him more involved. I think that obviously that's his strong point as coordinator. If you listen to these guys talk too, even on the sideline, they're talking about things that they've worked on in practice, and not only saying you got to be here on this call, but I think Dave's telling them why you got to be here and what everybody else is doing, not just when you've got to be there, but why you've got to be there. And I think that makes a huge difference, and I think it's going to make a difference in his demeanor during the game. We've heard him say he gets pissed off more often. You know what? That's okay. I think that's great. And I just think a little bit of that emphasis on let's play hard, let's play mean, that makes a difference. And Spav on the offensive side too. I mean, these guys are really motivated to produce. And I love the fact that Dave's coordinating the defense. I think that was absolutely something that needed to happen.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are excited for that. And, hey, man, when you've got the pressure up, might as well put it in your own hands, right, especially with what you know best. So that's going to be very, very interesting. Ricky, you're a former wide receiver. Did anything from that group that's had a very interesting combination? There's the veterans that need to further emerge, Ketron Jackson, guys like that. There's the transfers like Ashton Hawkins that have brought a bit of excitement and some new faces. There's some young guys as well, like a Jaden Porter. But did anything from the receiver room really stick out to you as an old receiver yourself at all?
A couple things. Of course, Hal Presley was out the other day, but I thought he's really looked good in practice. He's got size. I think finally maybe he's coming into a guy that can be – remember guys who got him out of Auburn, that we lost him early and got him back, and I think he's got the ability to be great. You've got Josh Cameron, who looks like a big running back out there or a linebacker, and I think he's got to be the ability to be really good. Ketron obviously has the size and the ability to go up and get the ball. He's that kind of guy. More speed out there than normal, but I'm telling you, Ashton Hawkins, this guy's 165 pounds, 170.
Yeah.
He can fly. And if you look the size of his hands, I mean, I've seen him twice reach up and just snatch a ball like you would expect from a big dude. I just really look for him to have a good year. They've just got to figure out ways to get him the ball, get it to him in space, let him make runs after the catch. But they've got some guys out there that can really make plays, and I think that's something we missed last year as well. Just you didn't see enough big plays outside where a kid catches the ball and then takes it for 20 or 25 yards after he catches it. And I think they've got some out there that can do that this year. You just got to get it to them in space, and with this offense, that's what it's designed to do, is get those guys in space with the ball.
Yeah, they couldn't spread anybody last year. And then on top of that, make it worse, they couldn't run the football, which that's debatable of what they can do that this year. Hopefully opening it up a little bit allows them to do that. So which comes first? Back when they ran those teams that won Big 12 titles up until the 21 team that did too, they would spread you out and then they'd hit you in the gut with that running game back when Coach Briles had that run. Which in this particular offense do you feel like will come first, that they have to do that too and then hit you in the gut, or what?
Well, I know that what they want to come first is the run, which is surprising when you hear the spread offense, but they want the run to come first. I think in this case, with a developing offensive line and really not knowing which of these guys is going to be playing where, they'll figure that out. But I think you may see the passing game first, which is okay. I think if you do see it, you'll see a lot of short stuff, slip screens, hitches, quick slants, and then I think you'll see much more deep ball presentations, or at least attempts. And I think that's really good, really important for this offense. Hopefully that opens up the run. But I think until this offensive line gels a little bit, the running game may be tough. I would be surprised if it's not. But the good thing is you've got the ability to spread them out, put four guys wide outside that can run the football. And when you do that, it's tough to just zone up against them, which should open up some ability to run the ball. They've been running Pendergrass number one lately.
Mm-hmm.
That may be because of his ability to have a little bit of size in there. And I tell you, he's got a lot more vision than you would think out of a big guy. 2 or 3 of his touchdown runs last year I thought were strictly on vision, and that's out of a true freshman. That's the thing. That's the stuff that you can't coach.
Yeah, you think maybe he's got some strength that the arm tackles, if that extra inch or two of space maybe allows him to break, and then you have Richardson and Reese and others that are going to be a part of that too. Ricky, look forward to having you on. Thank you so much for what you do for us in 365 Sports, but also the knowledge from your perspective too.
Yeah, guys, look forward to talking to you all again.
Thank you, Ricky Thompson, former Baylor wide receiver, NFL receiver, played with Joe Theismann in Washington, and now, and has been for quite some time, the sideline analyst for Baylor Radio.
I keep saying this. We need to get Joe back on the show again, because I love talking to Joe every time.
He's kind of gone quiet. I hope everything's okay with him.
Yeah, but he was
quiet. Yeah,
he was also my favorite Radio Row person, because you could walk up and say, "Hey, who's your runner?" And he's like, "I don't have a runner."
Yeah,
yeah. I'll come back.
Yeah, and he was very much in demand too, because he's, first of all, an incredible interview, great segment with him, and also a lot of great stories to tell too.
Yeah, that's a nice combo with Ricky, and I'm glad to start talking to him again on a more regular basis, and I'm sure JJ, Joe, and the rest of the cast and crew. But man, looking forward to football. But this O-line ain't much better, boys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to tank everything else. And I know there's an element of that offensive line that feels like they're gearing up and they're ready to go and prove it here in a couple of weeks. And maybe that they're they're getting a little bit disrespected, but I mean, what else you can only look at what you got in front of you, and what we got on paper is a lot of question marks. So, soon those will be answered. But I really hope they're better than the worst case scenario, because otherwise that could spiderweb and cause so many problems to the point of all the way to the top if they can't have a functioning offense on a regular basis. So yeah, good to hear a lot of the other things that he had to say about guys looking good getting off the bus, which some people would say, well, that's every year. Actually, no. That hasn't been said for a couple of years around here, quite frankly. So that's actually something that's different. The energy, the talk around practice, all of that seems improved. But that offensive line is going to have to be improved from last year to ensure that this team can meet its highest goals. But, we'll see again in a couple of weeks. That's clearly, though, when you talk Baylor, the biggest, most glaring issue that this team has, and everything else I think you feel pretty okay about.
When we come back, Eric Galko, he's a guy that we have him on quite a bit when it comes to the NFL draft. What are the top prospects in the Big 12 or some names that intrigue him a little bit? Again, I say he was at Big 12 Media Days in Vegas. He's going to be with us next. Eric Galko, 365 Sports. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. If you just don't feel right, and this is for probably those of you in your upper 30s, and you get into the 40s, and of course then even older, your testosterone level can start to drop. It's just part of just father time or whatever you want to call it. It may not have anything to do with what you're doing. Although your diet and what you have, the drink, etc., can sometimes affect your testosterone based on how you feel, this is different. This is something inside your body, and Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man, as I said, that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. He can check your blood levels. He will set up the appointment, take care of you giving blood so that he can get the results. And if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase it. It's that simple. That's your option once he tells you, yeah, your testosterone is too low. He can give you options to get into a program to increase your testosterone level so you can become that high-performance man you want to be, used to be, and need to be at PettyClinicalOT.com. El Conquistador restaurants are a very proud sponsor of the Midway Panthers, have been owned and operated by the Gonzalez family since 1969. El Conquistador is recognized annually as a local favorite with their fast and friendly service. Dine in or order takeout and enjoy your favorite Tex-Mex items as well as several traditional menu items. Catering is also available with 3 locations to serve you: Waco, Belmead, and Hillsboro. The Gonzalez family thanks you in Waco and the surrounding area for your continued support of 55 years in business. Go Panthers!
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages: Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
We'll have Eric Galko from Optimum Scouting here momentarily on the prospects, the ones that have his attention when it comes to the Big 12. He'll join us here momentarily on 365 Sports. By the way, tonight at 10:30 and every weeknight at 10:30, 365 Sports tonight on the CW. We appreciate that and our relationship with them. They'll also be one of our homes along with CBS, the local CBS, when it comes to Baylor pregame shows this season too.
Oh, man, that means no Dion interviews. It's unfortunate.
Why is this? Oh, CBS. Yeah, that's going to handle that. All right, thanks to the Super Chat, retired stockbroker. We appreciate that. Eric Galko, Optimum Scouting with us on 365 Sports. Eric, we tried it. My goodness, I think I waved at you or you waved at me. We never could actually get time together in Vegas around Radio Row, but we appreciate your time now. So the Big 12 is thought of with the SEC and the Big 10 and what they're doing. The ACC with some alpha names like Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and others. How much or how many like juicy prospects do you see within the Big 12?
Oh, I think a lot. I think good to talk to you guys. Well, sorry I missed you at the Big 12 Pro Day. I think the additions of schools like Colorado and some of the Pac-12 schools that came over absolutely have a lot of talent. Arizona's got a ton of guys this year. Colorado certainly has 2 stars in Shadur and Travis, among others as well too. So I really think that on a team-by-team basis, every team in the Big 12 has probably at least 3 or 4 and upwards of 7, 8, 9 players that are NFL consideration too. One of the deepest in all the country.
Eric, I know running back is not, the sexy draft position anymore, but overall, this is a pretty good year coming up for running backs. And the Big 12 has 5 or 6 guys that look like they might be NFL backs. Am I wrong about that?
Definitely not wrong. I mean, I think the one guy that NFL teams are probably most curious about for his NFL projection, just because he was so productive last year, was Taj Brooks. And I think a year ago he thought about coming out for the draft, not necessarily high-end grades, but NFL teams, guys that produce at that level and have third down ability like he does for 2 years in a row, get NFL teams really excited. And we've seen guys that go back into the years. Zach Charbonnet comes to mind at UCLA and Michigan, who was productive over the course of time, and not a guy who's an elite pass catcher or pass blocker, but just a really good football player. And Taj Brooks has that potential as well too. But no doubt the Big Ten, Ollie Gordon leads the way, obviously, and among others, Ollie's one of the first running backs taken. It's overall a deep group at that conference.
I saw on your timeline here recently, Eric, you highlighted Garrett Green a little bit or retweeted a little bit about Garrett Green and West Virginia team coming back with a lot. Not necessarily have huge expectations nationally, but I know there in Morgantown they feel great, especially because of Garrett Green. What do you think of him as a player and as a prospect?
No doubt. And I'll say West Virginia, talking to a good number of area scouts on the road, going through programs in the East Coast, pretty common theme saying watch out for West Virginia this year. I think they're a really well-coached football team with Coach Neil Brown, but with the offensive line that's strong, defensive line that's deep, a couple of good transfers, and then you've got a guy like Garrett Green who can make plays inside and outside the pocket. He's a really good athlete. Some teams in the NFL like him at quarterback. A lot of teams really intrigued about him as a receiver. That's the kind of athlete we're talking about. But I think at West Virginia, again, talking to scouts that bet that program, they said if they win 9, 10 games this year, people aren't going to be surprised. And that team is really dark horse in the Big 12. And Garrett Green, whether it's NFL prospects or at quarterback or elsewhere, is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the conference this year.
Eric Galko now also, when we first met him, he was a part of Optimum Scouting, which he still is, but also the director of football ops player personnel when it comes to the Shrine Bowl every year. Eric, let me ask you this about the quarterbacks who are now, for example, let's go to the Big 12. We brought up the quarterbacks. Shadur Sanders, your thoughts. There's so much discussion about him. Where do you put him?
Incredibly talented. I got a chance to see Shadur back in 2020 when he was a true freshman at Jackson State. And he is a guy within 5 or 6 throws, you know how special that guy can be. And he's grown so much as a passer. I think there's a lot of room to get better and continue to get better too. But no doubt in my mind, Shadur has a chance not only to be a first round pick, but one of the first players overall in next year's draft class. And that offensive line's gotten better at Colorado. He's got some more receivers, guys like Will Shepard, transfer Vanderbilt. Jimmy Horn is there. Obviously, Travis Hunter at receiver. I think if that offensive line can protect Shadur, he could put up 4,000 yards in college this year. He's got that type of mobility, arm talent, and NFL-level play. And that's why guys like Tom Brady, who have worked with Shadur, have said publicly how special this guy can be.
So this is not just the hype. He's good. He's obviously put up huge numbers at Jackson State and also Colorado. That he is, not just because he's Deion's son, that this kid, young man, is really that kind of player.
Yep, if he was Shadur Jones, he'd also be a first-round level player. He's a heck of a player. I think it's similar a little bit. They're different people, but it's similar to Caleb Williams in terms of some of the off-field character stuff where, hey, he's a bigger personality. He's a very confident person, and it's easy when you don't talk to him, and sometimes you see what you read on social media or wherever to think he's one thing, but he's an incredibly intelligent, and he has a benefit like a lot of guys that talk about Steph Curry all the time. His dad played professional football. He had a chance to see and talk to someone every day who's been through it and had success, and whether that's a personality thing or not, that experience alone is so valuable when he goes through the draft process. So I think what you think of Shadur on social media or whatever else in the media is one thing. I can tell you people around him and know how he's built, and me seeing him up close since he was a freshman at Jackson State, I know the kind of person and player he could be, and that's a franchise quarterback level talent.
Offensive line-wise, how is this conference set up this year?
Wyatt Milliam at West Virginia, mentioned the program again. He'll be one of the first offensive tackles drafted in this year's draft class. He'll be a first, second-round pick. He's that level of talent. Jonah at Arizona, another good player as well, too. But it's a really deep group. I think the offensive lines across the Big 12, Baylor got some guys coming in, Clark Barrington being one of them. Caleb Barrington being one of them as well, to kind of be there for 2 years now and a better offensive line group. But it feels like a lot of Big 12 teams bolstered and really developed their offensive line in a strong way. Caleb Rogers at Texas Tech, that'll be a great offensive line room as well, too. So across the board, a strong group, but Wyatt Milliam of West Virginia takes the cake as a possible first-round guy if he has a great season.
Eric, would you say that's one of the areas where that league has been a bit deficient in a way, just overall, that it amplifies other prospects, and maybe that's been not has it been more of a weakness than a strength perhaps in recent years for the Big 12?
No doubt. I think it's absolutely the case. And looking through some of the guys we have graded well in the Big 12 at offensive tackle alone, transfer from Princeton, Jalen Travis at Iowa State now, and a transfer from a smaller school, Dalton Cooper at Oklahoma State. So I think that the transfer portal has allowed these teams, which historically, the Kansas States, even the Baylors and Texas programs have done a good job having depth at those spots, but having the NFL level talent has been lacking, to your point. And I think a mix of further development, the influx of some of the Pac-12 schools, and now the transfer portal, finding those smaller school guys or guys who haven't developed elsewhere, really benefited the Big 12 in a big way.
So one of the other dynamic combinations entering the league this year from the Pac-12 is Noah Fafita and Teteroa McMillan from Arizona. I know they've got some other talented players on that roster, but those guys are kind of the headliners there. Eric, what are your thoughts on both players and what type of prospects in terms of the NFL draft are we talking about here?
Yeah, Noah, we've got another year left, most likely. He's a redshirt sophomore, and I would imagine, barring a Heisman-level campaign, which I'm not saying it's going to happen, but his talent's not out of the question with that team. But I think that he's got another year left at Arizona as well, too. But no doubt Arizona is a school that a lot of general managers and high-level NFL personnel are going to go to in season because of how much talent and first-round guys they have. McMillan, the receiver, is going to be one of the first receivers drafted in this year's class. And, again, a good season can make him a top 10, top 15 pick. They've got talent on the offensive line. They've got 2 NFL defensive backs, Cario Davis and Traden Stukes. So this Arizona team has quickly kind of changed their dynamic with the new coaching staff. And I think that's a good chance to be one of, in my opinion, if they can stay healthy and they have enough depth behind them, they can be one of the best teams in the Big 12 this year.
The quarterback position around the country, because the Big 12, they have a chunk of 6 or 7 that we've mentioned, and you've mentioned most of them. I don't know if we brought up Jalen Daniels among a couple of others, but the quarterback position, when you look at Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, and Dylan Gabriel, how would you position them turning when and if they turn pro?
Dylan Gabriel is a heck of a quarterback, and I know he's leaving the Big 12 now. Now he's going to Oregon, but I think he's a guy that people have maybe glossed over how talented he is. I was speaking with an NFL team just earlier today about Dylan Gabriel being, hey, let's not forget about him as being an NFL quarterback, despite maybe his size and whatever. He's a heck of a guy as well. And Quinn Ewers has a chance to be a first-round pick. But you mentioned the Big 12. There's a lot of up-and-coming players at quarterback in the Big 12 that can easily, I think, replace, maybe supplant some of those guys as well. Donovan Smith at Houston, for example, this year, next year's draft, he's got all the first-round potential. And if you guys got a chance to speak with him, a very impressive young man as well, too, who's going to impress teams in the interview room. Avery Johnson at Kansas State, he's got first-round potential when the time comes as well. Rocco Becht at Iowa State, first-round potential when that time comes as well, too. So despite losing some of those teams with top-tier quarterbacks, combined with Shadur Sanders and Garrett Green, a great college quarterback, they've got a lot of young up-and-coming quarterbacks still in the Big 12 this year.
That's good to know, yeah.
Eric, you mentioned Jalen Daniels. Where does Jalen Daniels kind of fall in the mind right now, given his injury history, but also given the flashes of talent that we've seen? How much have you watched of him, and where do you kind of peg him?
Who was that again? I'm sorry.
Jalen Daniels, quarterback at Kansas.
Yeah, just it's incredible what Jalen Daniels and Devin Neal have meant to that Kansas program, and how much, combined with the great coaching staff, obviously doing a great program tradition, those guys have NFL potential. Devin, obviously, a little more of an obvious running back, big play guy, and could do 3-down stuff as well, too. But Jalen Daniels' growth over the last 9 to 12 months as a passer, as a pocket passer, if he can stay healthy, he's got so much NFL potential on top of the two. And I think Kansas is a program that they're going to win close games. They're not going to lose games they shouldn't. And I think for a guy like Jalen Daniels to be a mobile, dual-threat guy, he's got to win games and show he could be a game manager as well as a playmaker. But no doubt he's on NFL teams' radars. And, again, a little bit limited in some areas and has to make some big strides. But a big personality, a confident person. And I think the number one thing that when you talk to the Kansas coaching staff, they talk every day about how much of a program builder he is and what a high-character leader and the player development level quarterback that you find in the country. I think the NFL teams would love to have a guy like Jalen Daniels in their quarterback room. And it's a similar discussion to a guy like Brock Purdy a couple of years ago. You can say what you want about Brock Purdy's film, but people went through Iowa State knew that he made everybody in that room on and off the field better. And that's what Jalen Daniels has as well.
Who is your favorite player to watch so far in college football, like going into this year, the one that you're excited to break down the film on every time you get the chance?
In the Big 12 or the whole country?
Whole country.
I'll say Cameron Ward at Miami, Florida. I had a chance to visit with the program and the staff and to see kind of the culture he's infused in a Miami team that's immensely talented, but also needed a new identity at quarterback. Cameron Ward has a chance to be a Baker Mayfield level impact at Miami this year. And I don't say that lightly. The culture he's created there and the leadership he's brought and the talent that they have, if Miami is a team that's one of the top 5, 6 in the country, and he's a big part of that, I won't be surprised at all. So if you're a college football fan, that Miami versus Florida Week 1 game is going to be a big one, but Miami should be a team that I think might win the ACC and can end up being one of the best teams in the country this year because of a guy like him.
Eric, there used to be, maybe not always, but when a player bounced around back in the day, prior to the rules of now, when it's like, I don't know how to say it, it's wide open. When a player like Dylan Gabriel, UCF, Oklahoma, now Oregon, Cam Ward, Incarnate Word, and then Washington State, now Miami, does that matter at all anymore because of the new rules? Does that maybe turn off any team, or is it purely what the hell their talent is?
100%. And I think the way it can turn off teams is based off of how the last team talks about you as a player. You know, use Cam Ward, for example. If you speak to Washington State or Incarnate Word people who are there, they speak incredibly highly of Cam and appreciate and understand the decision-making process. Other players that bounce around, it's not so positive. So I think the transfer portal has created, and NIL has given NFL teams insight into who's mature and who's not. I think it's a huge benefit to NFL teams to ask those questions. I certainly do, and you can tell pretty quickly which players are making smart decisions or thoughtful decisions or football-focused or personal life decisions, and which guys are saying, where can I get the most money, or where makes sense on paper, or where's my buddy going? And I think it's given NFL teams a lot of early information on these players as well, too. So for guys out there transferring a whole bunch, make sure that the reason you're transferring makes sense if you want to go to the NFL, because NFL teams are asking those questions, and it can be a positive for guys like Cam who are thoughtful, and when they leave a place, it's never on bad terms, and guys on the other side of the coin, too, maybe transferring for the wrong reasons. NFL teams are asking those questions and very thankful they know who those players are.
When you reach out to a player and offer them an invite to your bowl game, your all-star game, the Shrine Bowl, what's the reaction for them?
It's been awesome. You know, I would say that for, back in the 90s, Tom Brady played in the Shrine Bowl, and Dan Marino and John Elway. And I think for part of the early 2000s, the Shrine Bowl a little bit lost its luster. for maybe some deserved reasons that the game wasn't the same level it should be. And I think over the last 3 years, I've taken great pride in bringing back that history, but also giving players that come to our event, as well as NFL clubs and agents, a best-in-class experience. And I think from my point of view, hearing from players in college now that say my teammate went to the Shrine Bowl and loved it and felt healthy and enjoyed the process, and my other teammate went to a different All-Star game and didn't. So for me, it's gone from a what's the Shrine Bowl all about to thanks, great to hear from you. I'd love to talk about the Shrine Bowl and come in there this year as well, too. So it's been rewarding to take care of players and have that feedback. But no doubt, the Shrine Bowl and all All-Star games are a chance for players to think about the NFL. And I view our All-Star game as a gateway to their NFL future. It's a really cool, unique area from a media content standpoint to talk to guys who are not college athletes anymore, but also not pros. It's a great doorway for these guys to look at what their NFL life may be.
Well, we'll come up and do the show there since it's 90 miles away.
We'll figure all that out technically and all that. But, Eric, that'll be wonderful. We want to help you and support you as much as we can, too. You're the best. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Means a lot, guys. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Eric Galko, Shrine Bowl, football ops, and we'll have him on a handful of times throughout the season. Appreciate it. Great thoughts about some of the talent and quarterback and more in the Big 12.
Yeah, I think the Big 12 has suffered, from just a deficiency draft-wise for a few years now, and in particular at spots like the O-line, and I think defensively. That's not the case this year. I think with Shadur and Travis Hunter and some of the Arizona guys. Now, granted, like you said, Noah Fafita most likely would come back for a redshirt junior year, but you never know. If he sets the world on fire, they win the Big 12 or whatever. But, the Cats have guys on defense as well, Manu Tacario-Davis. There's a lot of players I'm probably forgetting about because of the transfer portal that I haven't even thought about that are draft prospects, not necessarily first, second rounders that are obvious, but the later rounds that could add to the overall stockpile of draft picks that you have. Like, naturally, you should have more because you've added more teams, but I think the total's been kind of low in general, and I think that maybe with the influx of quarterbacks and some of these newer teams that you're looking at a year where, from a Big 12 perspective, actually could be pretty damn interesting, the NFL draft, and beyond just your typical interest levels, like guys actually making some noise near the top end of the draft, which hasn't necessarily been the case. Oklahoma kind of carried the water there for a while with the big quarterbacks at the top of the draft. That's cleared out a bit now and wasn't so much the case, but they still regularly, along with Texas, put a lot of guys, in the draft. Now, there were years where, like, Texas didn't, a year where they put nobody in there, as a matter of fact, but that started to turn towards the end, and regardless of whether Texas was on a heater or Oklahoma was doing kind of their usual 6 guys get in the draft every year, you're losing probably like 10 draft picks on average with those two schools leaving. Mm-hmm. And so you need to replace that somehow. You don't have to have everything be a conference bragging rights race, because I think that's become that's gone overboard in a way because of realignment. All this conference pride just gets a little bit silly when we're doing like every single little category. But I do think NFL draft picks is important when it comes to recruiting and important when it comes to
I think it's huge.
Reasons to watch the games. It's like Shadur Sanders makes me want to watch Colorado even if I have no attachment to Colorado, right? So having Fafita and McMillan and Sanders and Hunter and Avery Johnson down the pipeline. We didn't even mention Cam Rising. There's tons of others that we didn't get to because you got 16 teams, but I think it's a good year for the league. KJ Jefferson, yeah. I mean, we didn't touch on UCF at all, and they probably will have a handful of guys that'll be in play. So, I actually think it's a pretty good year, an interesting year as far as the NFL draft and this conference goes.
When we come back, we mentioned the ESPN had their preseason All-American team. Chris Lowe's the one that did that, probably with help with many others. He just texted a few minutes ago, and he's available. We'll come back with Chris Lowe of ESPN. He's next, and this is 365 Sports. Get ready to make this the summer event. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat in Waco. Drive home the 2024 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab with a massive $15,000 off MSRP. Plus, experience the massive selection and luxury of the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer with exceptional discounts. See all the excitement right now at the dealership on Loop 340 and also just a little bit east of Highway 84. The 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland. Alan Samuels, choose between 2 or 3 rows. Save $12,000 off MSRP or take advantage of 0% financing. These are just a couple of what you have, of deals available, discounts available, incentives available. Ted Teague, the CEO and general manager, a staff that is there to show you the vehicles you're interested in. Test drive them too, and then make the decision. They'll be there for you. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely, and I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
Bambi SQ, what is the number one reason or 2 or 3 reasons, Bambi, that people should contact House of Travel?
As a travel agency local here in Waco, we can take care of all your bookings, your payments, answer your questions, help you when there are issues or problems, things that may come up that you don't know what to do or how to fix them. People don't realize we don't charge a fee for what we do. It doesn't cost you extra to use a travel agent. We're just here. We get paid by the tour companies and the cruise lines to represent them. But you have an expert on your side that's here and local, and you have a name and a face to put together to help you with anything that you may need. Give us a call. We can price things for you. We can help you answer questions. We can make it simple, easy, and one stop.
Your knowledge of all the years you've done this and then spit it back to them or give them options?
It helps us to kind of know a date range, a budget, what your goals are and what you want to see and do on your vacation. And then that helps us to know what to look for, and we can narrow down and help you make the best choices for your vacation so you get the best value. You get exactly what you were hoping for, and making sure that it's taken care of with a carefree, easy, simple for you type vacation. I've been doing this for over 40 years. Every day I learn something new. I experience new situations and things that I can help take care of for people, whether it's just making sure you get the best deals and find the best vacations, or whether it's to solve that problem, like you've got a flight that's being canceled and you don't know what to do. There's weather coming up. Should I cancel my trip next week because of the hurricane? Those are things that we take care of and you don't have to worry about. You've got somebody that you can rely on that you know is an expert, knows what we're doing, have been doing this for a long time, so that you're not questioning, okay, does the person on the other end of the phone really understand what I'm asking or know how to find those deals? You've got an expert, and we are here to take care of that.
For more information, go to houseoftravelwaco.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Alan Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Chris Lowe, ESPN. Fortunate to have him on the show a lot here on 365 Sports. He joins us again now with Craig and Paul. I'm David Smoke, and the All-American team, the preseason team, was released. Chris, thank you very much for your time. How much of an undertaking is this?
It's actually a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I've done it probably, I guess I took it over for Ivan Maisel several years ago, the preseason, postseason. We do a midseason too.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what it does? It allows me to talk to a lot of different people in college football, pro scouts, people I've gotten to know over the years, other colleagues of mine in the media who've seen some of these kids play live more than I have. The preseason one is probably even more exhausting because I don't want to just go on simply what players have done to this point. That's certainly a big part of it. But my goal is to look back in December when we do a postseason and say, well, we hit a lot of these guys, and sometimes there are injuries, and sometimes guys come under the radar and have great years. But I like doing it. I like talking to people. I like sort of the debate, this guy or that guy, and we try to do it by position. We try to have 2 guards, 2 tackles, an all-purpose player, safeties and corners, not just 4 DBs. And sometimes when you try to break it down like that, it's a little bit more meticulous.
What?
By the way, we appreciate you doing the offensive line that way instead of just 5 tackles.
Yeah.
Like 5 guys on the offensive line. That's the best part about it.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the biggest position or argument over this guy from all of you that contributed to this?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because as I was doing this and talking to people, I'd have, how it goes. Oh, you gotta have this guy. Oh, you can't have that guy. It was hard. The quarterback position was difficult. It was, because there were 5 guys that I legitimately considered. Again, Beck had a great year last year, but there's also, if you want to play devil's advocate, did he have to do as much as other quarterbacks because they were so good around him? I mean, when you're throwing to Brock Bowers, it's I could probably convert some third downs throwing to that guy.
Right.
And you look at Dylan Gabriel, his experience. I mean, I don't know anybody's played more football or has more experience at the position than him. Certainly Jalen Milroe was a factor. Quinn Ewers was a guy. I love the guy in Arizona. There were a ton of people that we looked at and thought about, and Shadur Sanders is another one. So that one was one. It was hard to just get to, because I think you could probably make a case for 6 or 7 that should at least be in contention. And then the offensive line. You mentioned the guards and the centers. Those are hard. Tackles sometimes are easier. Will Campbell at LSU is going to be a first rounder. He's played since the day he stepped on campus at LSU. When you start getting into those interior guys, it's a little bit more difficult. And I'll be the first to admit that I'm not the guru when it comes to interior offensive line play. I try to watch as much as I can. Try to lean on other people, some people in the media, and some people that are former players who played those positions that have watched a lot of these guys. And so there were a bunch of interior offensive linemen that were in the mix. And I feel good about the guys we came up with. I'll say this: Georgia's offensive line, and Dylan Fairchild wasn't even first or second team. He's the other guard for the Dogs. This might be Kirby Smart's best offensive line since he's been there, and that's saying a lot.
Yes, it is. It's saying a heck of a lot for the Dogs there. Chris, one thing that stood out to me immediately: all 5 offensive linemen from the SEC, 3 of the 4 defensive linemen from the SEC. If not for Mason Graham there at Michigan at D tackle, it would have been a clean sweep. I know they have, every position there's bragging rights to be had, but in the trenches, is that really the big separator you feel like above maybe all else, aside from maybe just pure passion when it comes to the SEC right now versus not necessarily the Big Ten, but most others?
Well, I think they're really good players across the country. And what I try to do is, and I've covered the SEC for a long time. I've covered a lot of the Deep South, the ACC. Is when I talk to people, I always say, listen, this is not a contest where we're trying to sort of get, so many from the Big 12, so many from the SEC.
Right.
I want the best players. Who are the best players? Who do you think, based on performance at this point, projection, your talks? Because a lot of the guys in the NFL I talk to, I'll give you one example. I talked to a guy who's the college personnel director. I won't say the team. And he was making the rounds, the different campuses this preseason. And so I would talk to him, and he just had left Clemson, or he was going to Georgia. He was going to, to wherever, going to Florida State. And he would say, well, this guy, their offensive line coach or coordinator, said this, or this. So that's pretty helpful because sort of the way the staffs are thinking. And then you talk to a guy whose job is to evaluate these guys. So after I finished it and I looked at it, it jumped out to me, man, we got a lot of SEC guys in the trenches. But then you go back and you look at the draft.
Yeah.
Over the last, forever, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And the guys that are going primarily up high in the trenches are SEC guys. I do think, though, there are other really good players. I mean, you go back to, we're talking about guys that made second team. You go back to, say, Ohio State. See, I think they've got 3 guys in their defensive line. Any 3 of those could be All-American when it's all said and done. And I think, you go secondary too. Denzel Burke was a second-team cornerback. Caleb Williams, who was in the SEC, now he's in the Big Ten. I think if he's not the best safety in America, he's right there in the top 2. So guys moving around now. Scored's is a great example. He was at Purdue last year, led the Big Ten in sacks. Now he's in the SEC at Texas A&M, a kid who grew up, in the shadow of Kyle Field, Bryan, Texas there, and got away. Now he's back. Again, in talking to people on that staff that I trust, talking to NFL people, I think he has a massive year this year for the Aggies.
Well, the defensive line that you listed could easily be 4 of the top maybe 11 picks in the draft. Like, I don't see it, like, if everything goes according to plan, Deion Walker, Mason Graham, James Pierce alone could go in the top 5.
Yeah, Mason Graham, he's the one. You guys asked me the toughest choice. I don't think I talked to anybody that I trust, media, pro people, coaches around the country, former players, some of whom are in the media now, but know a whole hell of a lot more about it than I do. I don't think anybody that I talked to when we started talking about interior defensive line did not mention Mason Graham, the first or second. He's a guy, you start talking about who's going to go first in the draft. Maybe it's James Pierce, maybe it's Beck, I don't know. But when you start talking about interior defensive lineman, Mason Graham is the stand. And you go back and put his tape on from the playoff last year against Alabama, against Washington, he was dominant. And I think he'll have that kind of season this year.
Chris, you have Ashton Jeanty from Boise State on the second team as far as the all-purpose behind Travis Hunter. And I follow the young men who play their high school ball in Texas very closely. I'm a huge fan of his. He had a monster year last year. I was just curious kind of what the feedback you received was in terms of Ashton Jeanty, a guy who clearly could have gone in the transfer portal and probably made a lot of money and ended up at a much bigger school than Boise, but decided to stay where he was with the Broncos.
Yeah, and I love that about him. Mm-hmm. I love that loyalty. And that's not, I know everyone's going to say, well, Chris says kids you transfer aren't loyal. I'm not saying that. But I think it's okay to celebrate those kids who do stay. Mm-hmm. And he did. I wish we had an offensive, there was a way to just have an offensive all-purpose guy because he would win clearly. All-purpose, obviously, with Travis Hunter playing defense and offense was, pretty much no-brainer what he means to Colorado on both sides of the ball. But Jeanty is a guy that if you just put it in his hands, again, talking to people, special teams people who have to defend him, they don't want to see the ball in his hands, period, whether he's returning kicks, whether they're, throwing the ball to him out of the backfield. He can, people I think look at him as a big play guy. He's made a lot of big plays, but he's a tough runner between the tackles. Yep. I think that's where probably there's a misconception about him, is that he's not one of those guys who can get to tough yards, or he can, which makes him, again, such a versatile threat. To me, and again, I'm not a pro scout, but when you look at what teams in the NFL want to do with backs, play them situationally, be able to have a guy in there who can then throw it to on third down, a guy that is capable of getting yards in the red zone or what have you. And certainly he's proven his worth on special teams too. He, to me, is a guy who would play a ton of snaps for somebody in the NFL.
Chris, I want to do this. And first of all, thanks for jumping on with us. I know we had you back during the Nick Saban decided to retire, but I still want to. I don't think anyone had the access. Nobody had that kind of access that you did, which means a lot. Obviously, with what Saban trusted you to do, but also the way you could write that story. When did you know that he had retired. Did you know when everyone else found out?
Yeah, I think pretty much. I mean, I don't think Nick even knew 1,000% that day he went to the Steelers team. He knew he was leaning that way. His wife knew. They'd been off to their place there in Lake Burton, Georgia, but he knew that's sort of the way he was leaning. But I think it's like any of us. When we make a really major decision in our life, I know this is true of me, and you're about to do it, and it's sort of surreal, and you're saying to yourself, am I really about to do this? I think that was sort of the case with him. And he knew the time was right. And yeah, I mean, I found out that day within not too long, really before, right around the time he told his players. He hadn't told many people. He had prepared the people that needed to know. He told his AD that he's probably headed in that direction. Even his family, his daughter Kristen. I think Nick's wife Terry called her and said, "Hey, FYI, I think there's a chance your dad's gonna step down." But so I mean, I don't even know that she knew it for sure that day. But it was. I knew he was thinking about it. I knew he'd been thinking about it for a year or two. He told me when I was with him in, I guess, the week of the SEC championship game when I was in Tuscaloosa that I was kidding him about, I'd be retired before he is. And he looked at me and said, 14-hour days are a lot harder at 72 than they are at 62. And that was a little bit of a hint to me that this time it was pretty serious.
Well, the story and all the stuff you did during that time is great. Also, the All-American team. Thanks for jumping on with us. Late notice that I got back in touch with you to do that. We appreciate it. Enjoy the football season, man. We enjoy your work.
Well, hey, anybody who is friends with Dave Wilson's a friend of mine. Let's put it that way.
Dave Wilson, the storyteller, man. Yeah, we saw him in Vegas, and thank you for saying that, and take care of him, too. Thanks for your time, Chris. Have a great rest of the week.
Okay, you guys do the same. Thank you.
Chris Lowe. In fact, when I reached out to him on the Saban story, he checked with Dave Wilson just to kind of and Dave, of course, goes back 30, 40 years with me in East Texas, and that's how we got Chris Lowe. Not just because of that, but that didn't hurt. We've had him before, but that was a time when he was being wanted by a lot of people to talk about Nick Saban.
And the fact that you just said 30 or 40 years is exactly why I applied for you to be a spokesman for the AARP.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I think it would be good. I hope that they say yes.
They send out more. I think we had to do a top 5 of the most mail you get from certain companies when you turn 60 or about to turn 65.
Oh, I'm sure it's a lot.
You're not far.
No.
AARP is one of them.
Yeah.
And there are 3 or 4, and I just get them. And what they're trying to do is they have you, like, for example, a AAA, which is a great thing to have if you have a vehicle or your family members. But they always are trying to get you to do that life insurance on top, or this insurance, or whatever on top of just what you get when your vehicle stalls on the side of a highway.
I think you've reached the point in your career where, you know how you see Tom Selleck selling reverse mortgages during The Price is Right? Like, that might be you now. I think it's fine. I mean, reverse mortgage is not really the best thing in the world, but, I won't get you anything like Metamucil or anything like that.
No, don't do that, because
that's maybe too on the nose. But
in other news, we're going to start doing the show at 2 a.m. in the morning on the most random channel possible.
Well, this is my last football season anyway, dude.
You've said that every year since I've known you.
Yeah, since 2010. Yeah. All right, when we come back, BJ Rains covers Boise State, giving them a little love because they're happy. Jeremiah Dickey has been extended as far as his contract. One of the names that came up when Houston had an opening with Chris Pesman no longer there as an AD. BJ Rains, who we got to know when Boise State played Baylor back in 2016. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick, GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for all of your automotive needs. What are you looking to get done? They can take care of that for you. If you're looking to get into a new vehicle, they've got plenty on the lot right now. If you're looking to get your current vehicle fixed up, they've got the ability to do that for you as well. It's big-time damage to your vehicle, I've had that taken care of over there. Just need an oil change. They can take care of that as well. So they are your one-stop shop for a lot, if not all, of your vehicle needs, depending on what those needs are. And hopefully those needs are need to get in a new vehicle, because particularly when it comes to that, they are your go-to, both new and pre-owned vehicles all over the lot. And it's football season. It's time for ball, and that means it's also time for big savings on cars and truck with the kickoff to savings event going on right now over at Richard Carr. Right now you can save $9,000 on all 2024 GMC Sierra SLT trucks in stock. If you have a 2010 or newer trade-in for qualified buyers, you can find Sierra trucks all over the lot and the website under $40,000. They can help you out as far as more details go, but it's got a multi-pro tailgate, first-class interior, and power to get any job done. The GMC Sierra is the truck for Texans who want to drive the best. So check out the 2024 GMC Sierra SLT trucks right now and get thousands in savings off if you are a qualified buyer. They also have a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks as well, loaded over there on the lot with over 100 highly inspected used cars and trucks priced to move. And as always, as I say in every one of these reads, their goal is 100% credit approval. So if you're looking to get into a pre-owned car or truck, they've got you taken care of there. Whatever you're looking to get done, as I said at the top, they can be and will be the people that you count on for your automotive needs. It's time for football and time for savings and time for you to get into a vehicle that you love driving, that you feel comfortable driving, and just getting more comfortable with the vehicle you're currently driving by getting fixed up a little bit. Whatever you're looking to do, enjoy the special pricing and all the great customer service during the kickoff to savings event right now over at Richard Carr Motors.
Get ready, Baylor fans. The ultimate game weekend experience awaits you at the Baylor Club. Kick off your weekend with our Friday Night Live pep rally. With live entertainment and special appearances from the Baylor Spirit Squad, it's the perfect way to start your game weekend with a roar. On Saturdays, don't miss our Knox Hall tailgate. Enjoy delicious food, ice-cold drinks, and great company as you gear up for the big game. And after the weekend's excitement, wrap it all up with our famous Bear brunches on Sundays. Don't wait. Make your game weekends legendary with the Baylor Club membership today.
Ghost Hydration is a fully transparent, fully loaded, full-flavored hydration drink that we've all been waiting for. Ghost is caffeine-free with electrolytes, zero sugar, and low sodium that'll hydrate your body before, during, and after your workout. Consumer loved with authentic flavors, so grab and enjoy a Sour Patch Kids Blue Raspberry and Red Berry, along with the Kiwi Strawberry, Orange Squeeze, or Lemon Lime. Ghost Hydration can truly be used anytime. Remember, it's formulated for sports, but made for life.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
This is is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. This segment is brought to you by Busch Light, the sound of refreshment. The coldest and smoothest light lager there is. Find Busch Light near you.
We've known B.J. Rain since back during the end of the 2016 season when Baylor and Boise State played in Phoenix. And, of course, the Broncos with a great history with what they've done, Chris Peterson among others, and now with what they're doing. And a quarterback that's pretty darn highly rated in Malachi Nelson. He joins us on three. And an AD that we love to death in Jeremiah Dickey. B.J., thanks for your time. Let's start with that. How much of a nice goose with Jeremiah Dickey being wanted when other jobs opened, for him to do the extension, how much does that mean to Boise State?
Oh, it was huge. I mean, it was everybody, all the fans, coaches, everybody was saying it would have been just an absolute buzzkill if they would have lost him. And they've had so much momentum, and the football side, the basketball side, just so much has been going right the last couple of years. And for them to, everything he's doing to build the facilities and build everything he's got going right now, it just would have been an absolute buzzkill, and it would have been horrible. But for them to be able to keep him and get him in for the next couple of years with the things they have scheduled in terms of the expansion of the stadium and some renovations and things, it was. I know a lot of coaches were politicking to get him to stay with the president, and they got it done, and it's a huge deal for Boise State.
BJ, read a column yesterday about Malachi Nelson, and his story was kind of bizarre in that, and it's no offense to Boise State, they've had a great tradition, but five-star guys don't go from USC to Boise State before they've even started, and when they have the opportunity to win the job going into the next year. But he seems to be a pretty fascinating player and kid. Has he really been able to take the reins there as the leader of the program now?
It's funny you say that because I don't even think he's going to start the first game of the season. I mean, they've got an incumbent in Maddox Madsen that started, last year at the end of the season. He actually, supplanted Taylen Green. They had a big quarterback controversy last year. Taylen Green obviously transferred to Arkansas after the season, but it got to a point where Maddox Madsen actually took the starting spot away from Taylen Green midway through the season. Then he got hurt and missed the rest of the season. Everybody just kind of assumes that Malachi Nelson, five-star guy, USC transfer, was going to come in and start right away. And Maddox Madsen was like, hey, don't forget about me. I won the job last year before I got hurt. And so he's come in and been very impressive. And they're playing it as a quarterback battle. They're saying it's still 50-50 type thing. But you watch the reps in practice and you hear everybody talk about him. And at this point, I think at least for the first game, I would be surprised if it was not. Maddox Madsen starting that first game. Do I think Malachi Nelson is at some point going to be the starting quarterback this season? Probably so. Is he going to play early in the season? Probably so. But I think going down to Georgia Southern, kind of a tricky season opener, they're going to go with the guy that's been in the program a couple of years and has the experience. And I think that's not necessarily a negative on what they think of Malachi Nelson. I just think they really like Maddox Madsen right now to start the season, at least for the first game or two. And they obviously play in Autzen Stadium against Oregon week 2. Back-to-back road games to start the year. So I think they just maybe feel like an experienced, more veteran quarterback that knows the offense and things is the better fit off the bat. But that was a huge deal, and they got him to commit, and they had fans waiting at the airport for him when he got to town on his visit. I mean, to get a five-star guy like that, and everybody knows he's committed to Oklahoma, and then followed Lincoln Riley to USC. And I mean, he's a big-time prospect, big-time player, and one of the reasons there's a ton of hype around this team, and it was a huge get for them, and I think he has a chance to be a star. I just don't know if it's going to be right away from game one.
BJ, what did you think of the Taylen Green to Arkansas move and how he might fit in there with Sam Pittman?
I like it a lot. I mean, I was a big Taylen Green guy. I thought he kind of got a raw deal last year at Boise State. I think you could write a book. And maybe someday I will, about last year's Boise State season and just how weird it was with the quarterback situation, and then Andy Avalos getting fired midway through the season. You had, their top receiver, one of the best receivers in the Mountain West, just leave with like 5 games left and transfer to TCU. I mean, they just had a lot of weird stuff happening last year, and the quarterback one was as weird as it gets. I mean, they continued to start Taylen Green, but Maddox Madsen continued to play more snaps during the game. There was even one game, guys, where they said, Taylen Green's our starter, and he literally started and had one play and handed it off, and then they went to the other quarterback, Maddox Madsen, the second play of the game. And it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my 15-plus years covering college football. And so I don't know what the deal was, but I thought that Taylen Green was a lot better than they gave him credit for, and they just didn't give him a chance. And so he's a dynamic runner. He's one of the fastest players on the team, has a heck of an arm. I think, the fact that he already went to SEC Media Days and represented the team there after just being there, for 5-6 months, they really like him, and I'm going to be rooting for him, and I think he has a chance to do some really big things. I think he got a raw deal, and I think that he wasn't used properly at Boise State, and I think that a lot of Boise State fans are going to be surprised when they didn't think he was any good or he wasn't starting, and they go see what he does at Arkansas this year. I think there's going to be a lot of people eating crow. Man,
I'm so glad that you answered it that way, because I follow him very closely because he's from Texas, and I could not figure out what was going on up there. So to hear that you yourself were a little bit confused by it all, it makes me feel a lot better. Like, okay, yeah, it was obviously some, just kind of strange. So, I'm looking forward to him in Arkansas as well. But there's another young man who graduated from high school in Texas who's obviously the headliner this year for the Broncos, and Ashton Jeanty. Huge year last year. Can do a little bit of everything. BJ, getting him back was obviously massive news for the Broncos, but just what's kind of the talk about him entering this season, and just how massive was getting him back?
Oh, it was the first, huge win that Spencer Danielson got as head coach. And, they put together a nice little NIL package for him, $300,000 or so. And that's the biggest NIL package at Boise State they had ever done. But, he could have had $1 million+ probably to go pretty much anywhere he wanted, whether it was the SEC or somewhere like Oregon. Some of these schools, he was certainly one of those guys that teams were reaching out to. They were, even though he wasn't in the portal with how it happens nowadays, because anybody in the country would have liked to have Ashton Jeanty. And, for him to be back, and he's, pretty much committed to this year, and he's only a junior, and I think everybody just knows he's going to the NFL after this season. There's not really any drama about it. I saw today he was named a second-team All-American, I think, from the CBS Sports, the Associated Press, or somebody. So he's probably one of the top player, probably the top player in the group of five, and certainly one of the top, 2 or 3, 4, 5 best running backs in the country. And they've got, a Heisman campaign. They're going for, they've got a logo with, the number 2 for Jeanty instead of the S for Heisman. And they got a whole little Heisman campaign they're trying to make for him. And, his goal is to rush for 2,000 yards. He rushed for 1,300 and something last year. The school record is 1,823, I believe it is. But he wants to play 14, 15 games if they can get in the playoff, and he wants to rush for 2,000 yards this year. And he said that publicly is his goal, and I'm not going to get in the way. The only thing that could stop him is he's a very good out of the backfield in terms of pass catching. I think he caught almost 50 passes last year, so he gets a lot of yards all purpose. He may lose some quote-unquote rushing yards by catching a lot of screen passes and things like that, but he's a 200-yard-a-game, all-purpose type guy. He's a day, 2, running back, early day 3, second, third, fourth round running back. And he's a heck of a player. And for them to hang on to him was a huge win. And he's the, single greatest reason why a lot of people in Boise think this is a team that should go to the playoff and be that top group of 5 team. And why a lot of people will be disappointed if they don't. It all starts with an elite running back like Ashton Jeanty.
Well, we just had Chris Lowe from ESPN. That was the All-American team that was released, one of them that was released today, and Ashton was second behind Travis Hunter among the all-purpose players. So, he's getting a lot of love, and he deserves that. You mentioned the playoff. Does the expansion make everybody even more excited about the possibility of playing in the picture, in the book? Because there's a chance, the G5, not a chance, someone from the G5 will get in. How much does that add a little extra spice this season?
Oh, it's unbelievable. It makes going to the grocery store more exciting when you see people wearing Boise State stuff, and it makes, the players, the coaches. This is a team that obviously they felt like the first kind of team to break through and win that Fiesta Bowl, obviously over Oklahoma. They backed it up and won 2 others, and they've got, 3, and they kind of, of late, it's been a little bit of a struggle at times. And some of these other schools like UCF have won some of these games and then, kind of moved into the Power 5 and I guess you could say, quote unquote, pass them by. And so Boise State, has always had that chip on its shoulder. They always kind of feel like whenever everybody says, they're going to be the next Boise State, whatever. It's like, no, there's no next Boise State. And so they feel like for them to have a chance to get into this expanded playoff for the first time would be huge, and kind of them returning to the national stage here. And I think it comes at a good time. They've got a really good team. They're the clear favorites in the Mountain West, and you just got to win your conference, and then you're one of the 5 teams that's eligible. So it's a huge thing. There's so much hype, guys, around this team and around Ashton Jeanty and Spencer Danielson and these wide receivers and this defense. You're almost at a point where it's going to be, I mean, I don't know if we're almost there. I think we might be there where a large majority of this fan base, it'll be a disappointing season if they don't make the playoff. And so, 10 wins, conference championship, I mean, there's a lot of goals that this team has, but it feels like it's almost playoff or bust for this team when you know you have 1 year left of Ashton Jeanty and you know what you have with this team on both sides of the ball and what Spencer Danielson did at the end of last season. So, yes, the fact that there's an automatic spot, every single interview I do with the players, they bring that up at some point during the interview, that they now know they have it. They realistically don't have to just believe it. They know it's a fact. They have a chance to make history and get in this playoff and do something special. And I think they're super excited about that. I mean, it would be pretty amazing to have a Boise State go to a Texas or an Oklahoma or whoever, Georgia in the first round of the playoff and play. It would just be pretty cool. So I know that's the goal. And like I said, now that it's a realistic goal, it does add a lot of excitement and juice going into the season.
By the way, one of the biggest fans of Boise, he's a Memphis fan, Metal. He's a big G5 guy for us. He always talking about Memphis or Boise State. He just put a super chat up. Better late than never. Go Broncos. Thank you very much, Metal, for the super chat with our interview today with BJ Raines.
BJ, Dirk Koetter back full-time as the offensive coordinator after he came in last year. And how much of a boon is that for not only just the offense in general, but those quarterbacks? Because if there's one thing, his career, he's been a lot of places. And as a head coach in the NFL, it was a little up and down. But he's someone who knows that position and knows it really well.
No doubt, and it was actually 2 years ago they fired the offensive coordinator 4 games into the season after Boise State had a disastrous loss at UTEP. Borderline one of the worst losses in the history of the program, losing as a double-digit favorite on the road at UTEP. They fired Tim Plow the next day. This was during the 2022 season. Dirk Koetter comes in, finishes the season, helps them go on a run and kind of salvage the season a little bit. They go and hire Bush Hamden to run the offense. He stays for 1 year and then surprisingly leaves to go to Kentucky. So he goes to be the OC at Kentucky, and all of a sudden Spencer Danielson is stuck in his first year trying to find somebody new. And he did a long interview process, and the crazy thing is, like, Dirk Koetter was actually like helping them, was part of the interviews. He was like part of the hiring process. He had no interest in this job. He was retired and happy and just kind of being an advisor, and they did all these interviews, and then it came back to, Dirk Koetter was still the best man for the job, and Spencer Danielson somehow convinced them to do 1 more year. And I mean, it's a ridiculously nice job. He doesn't recruit. When all the other coaches recruit, he goes golfing. He gets to hang out and just, he just gets to literally coach football and develop these quarterbacks. And so, he was a former head coach, obviously at Boise State, has ties to the area. What he did with the offense when he was here was 2 years ago was super impressive. So that's another reason why fans are so excited for this year is what Dirk Koetter potentially brings. But to have an NFL head coach, an NFL OC, the experience that he has with all these quarterbacks in the NFL and receivers, he's now given the tutoring and the tutelage to these Boise State players. It's pretty crazy the kind of experience he has, and he still has that juice. You see, he's still moving around in practice pretty well, and Dirk Koetter. I mean, to have a coordinator like that, as I said, certainly at the Mountain West level, good luck trying to match his experience and what he's done, and that's yet another reason on the long list of why people are so fired up about this season.
They have that game on the second week against Oregon on the road, but the game with Georgia Southern, Garrett, did you see that tweet about the Inferno?
Yes.
Well, I saw your note last night, BJ, about the practice facility that they were working out in, and they had the temperature up as much as they could or whatever. Is that
Yep.
anticipation of a game against Georgia Southern, which will be at the end of August, and it's going to be hotter than Hades?
Now, I would assume other people do this that play in the north and go to the south, but this is a thing Boise State's been doing for years, and so I don't think this is like their secret thing, but maybe it is. But, I mean, they've done this. For whatever reason, it seems like Boise State opens the season a lot down in the south. They played at Troy. They played at Louisiana Lafayette. They played at Florida State in 2019. They played at UCF a couple years ago. Like, for whatever reason, they've got these games in the south to start the year, and this is a thing they've done for years. Literally, like 2 days before they do this, they lock down the building and just turn the heat on full blast, and they water the field. It's a turf field, but they just water it and soak it, and then as the players come in each day or into the practice for the Inferno, they just hose them down, and so it's literally 100 degrees with 70% humidity, and it's just sticky and muggy and hot, and they have the whole 2-hour practice in there. And if you go back and look at the Florida State game in 2019, they made a huge comeback in the second half because Florida State in their own building or their own, own stadium started cramping up and got gassed and ran out of gas. And Boise State just blew by them and overcame like a 3-touchdown deficit or something in the second half to beat Florida State. And so whatever it is, it works for them. They've got this thing down. They'll do another one next week. And they just try to simulate the humidity and the heat. And I saw a lot of Georgia Southern people saying, put the gnats and the mosquitoes and everything in there, then we'll be talking. But, I think that they have a plan that works, and it's kind of crazy. And they get used to all the sweat on your fingers and your hands and trying to, snap the ball and throw the ball and catch the ball and have the, be able to survive a 3-hour game. And like I said, they've had pretty good success playing down south. So they're going to do it again next week. And other fan bases will laugh at them and make it, say, oh, good luck or whatever. And then when the game happens, they usually do pretty well.
Oh, I'm well familiar. That's why I thought Smokey brought it up to needle me a little bit, because that 29 Florida State game was, as a Florida State alum, my tipping point of anger with Willie Taggart in that, okay, they're showing, and I know you were
that
probably
was not on my mind, by the way.
You were, I know you probably were at the game, BJ, covering it,
yes.
But in the broadcast, they showed the different things that each team did to get ready, and they showed Boise doing that and getting, humidified, so to speak. And then Willie had some kind of ice box created for his team to cool down. And here Boise State is in the fourth quarter, not supposed to be used to this weather. And all these kids who not only should be used to it, but grew up in it, are wearing down. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. I can't. I was so angry. I was just so mad. But yeah, it's a brilliant thing that they did. And I'm sure people are copycatting them now.
Yeah. I can't imagine they're the only school that does it, but every time it happens, all the other fan base gets a hold of it. And all the Georgia Southern people yesterday were mocking it and laughing about it, making all these jokes. But as I said, Boise State, I think, is 4-1 or 5-1 and playing these road games to start the season down south, and had a big lead against UCF and blew it, or they would have been undefeated in these games. And so it's kind of funny, but I'll tell you what, it's a shame too, because we've had a lot of wildfires and smoke, and they've had to move some practices indoors, and it's been cloudy and super hot, and it's just been not a great, couple of weeks for fall camp. That was just, as luck would have it, the weather broke. It was 75, light breeze, perfectly blue sky. I mean, it was by far the best day they've had of the entire fall camp, and yet they're inside in the indoor, and we're all sweating it off in 100-degree heat. So it was bad luck, but it was it helps them get ready, and they say it does make a difference, and we'll see here in 2 weeks.
BJ, good stuff. I knew it would be. Thank you for your coverage of what you do, analyzing Boise State, the opportunities for schools outside of the Autonomy 4. All of it. Jeremiah Dickey, happy when I saw that note. I was thrilled for Boise State. Thanks for your time. We will have you again, and have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, I always enjoy coming on your show and watching it from afar, and the model you guys have, and you guys do a great job. So always honored when you ask me to come on, and happy to do it anytime.
You too. BJ Rains, Bronco Nation News, and on Boise State, the Broncos, and a team that's dangerous. They have that opening game at Georgia Southern, then on the road to take on what right now is third-ranked Oregon.
I think that outside of Boise, Idaho, and just Boise folks who have moved elsewhere or live elsewhere, we are the biggest fan club for the Broncos. I feel like at least we are. And, I was very surprised by the whole Taylen Green situation last year. So to hear him say, like, as a guy who covers the team on a daily basis, like, he didn't understand it, that makes me feel a lot better, because I just felt like out of the loop. I didn't know why they were moving around the quarterback position and him in and out of the lineup the way that they were. It was very odd. But he has a chance to go and thrive at Arkansas, and I think that, the only thing barring him really from that will be the fact that Arkansas is probably going to be one of the worst teams in the SEC. But I think he's a guy who could have a lot of success there, and obviously I'm a huge Ashton Jeanty fan. Eric McAllister's off to TCU. That's another player they lost, but yet he still says that wide receivers will be a strength. So, yeah, I think that all adds up to, Malachi Nelson comes in. He's not even a starter. That all adds up to what sounds like a pretty talented team, and rightfully a team that's getting a lot of preseason love. So I'm excited to see Jeanty and Boise and what all that looks like with Spencer Danielson, because they are definitely one of those teams you look at, all right, who out of these four conferences will be the playoff spoiler, or outside of these four conferences will be the playoff spoiler, and they're right there near the top of the list with Memphis and I guess there's a couple of others, Liberty, that get mentioned there as well. But, yeah, Boise's got every reason to be excited about this season.
All right, when we come back, I just like them. They've been good for a pretty long time. And this, you could feel that emotion from BJ as far as what it means for somebody in the G5, no matter what. If there's 4, they're not in it. If there's 8, they might not be in it. But there's 12, and 1 will get in it. And that'll be fun to see, and good luck to them as they move forward for the rest of the year to see who that will be sometime in early December. When we come back, Kyle Yeomans covers the Cowboys. He just wrapped up a show that he does on DallasCowboys.com. We'll check in with him. He's next, and this is 365 Sports.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
NFL preseason, of course, has begun for the last week or so. They had the Hall of Fame weekend, and I don't remember whether I watched a single preseason play last weekend. Now that it may have been something that was on one of the 2 TVs, might have been on my YouTube. No, it wouldn't have been on my YouTube channel because that wouldn't have been seen, the Cowboys and the Rams, among other games. I saw some Jaden Daniels highlights, which I was impressed with. It looked pretty good. Of course, it's only the preseason. So there's a new rule in the NFL. It's the kickoff rule. Our next guest, Kyle Yeomans, DallasCowboys.com, put together a video to try to explain the new rules for those who, when something happens, you don't scream at your television because you'll know based on this.
Sundays this fall, you're going to see something you've never seen in the NFL before, as the NFL's competition committee earlier this spring approved a brand new set of kickoff rules that could change the game forever. It is a new set of rules aiming to do 2 things: keep players safe and add some excitement to a forgotten play in the sport. The kickoff still begins at the 35-yard line, just like in years past. But now 10 players on the kicking team will set up 25 yards from where the kick takes place. For the receiving team, a minimum of 9 players will line up in the setup zone, which is between the 30 and 35-yard line, leaving 1 or 2 return men in the backfield. The play officially begins when the ball is either caught or hits the ground in what they call the landing zone, which is between the receiving team's 20-yard line and the goal line. Any kick that hits in the landing zone must be returned, and any kick that bounces from the landing zone into the end zone must be returned or down by the receiving team for a touchback, which would bring the ball out to the 20-yard line. However, if a kick fails to reach the 20-yard line or the landing zone, the receiving team will take possession at its own 40-yard line, a steep penalty for short kicks this season. That will also be the starting spot if a kick lands out of bounds for a penalty. If the ball enters the end zone through the air, the receiving team can return it or down it and take possession at their 30-yard line. A lesser penalty, but still increasing the importance of aiming for the landing zone. Finally, there are no fair catches, and onside kicks are only permitted in the fourth quarter and only from a team who's trailing. It'll probably take some time for some of these teams and even fans to adjust to these new rules. However, if things go well in 2024, the new era of the kickoff will be here to stay.
Okay, I can't believe it's the 40. That's unbelievable. Secondly, the fact that sometimes people would try to trick you with an onside kick without telling you. Now you have to tell people, and you have to be the losing team, which is usually why you would kick an onside kick unless it was going to be a surprise. That's a lot. That is what you.
I think
you hear that today among kids. That's a lot.
I think the onside kick is eventually going to go away in and of itself, and they'll do that. 4th and 25 from the 20-yard line. That's the plan they have, where you have one play to get 25 yards, because right now in the NFL, it's a lot easier to throw a 25-yard pass than it is to get an onside kick.
Sure it is. Yeah.
So
I just that's very complicated. And Kyle did a great job. In fact, Kyle Visser, that was a concise explanation. Thank you. And I will have to probably go back. I know you sent that to me. I need to watch it. And it just seemed like that's like there will be players. Now, Bill Parcells would go over this 15 times during special teams every day at practice. Yeah. There's going to be some that don't.
I saw that Bones Fossil gave a tutorial to the media on like the 3rd or 4th day of camp, like the day they had their or whatever was that first off day of no practice. Bones Fossil came out and gave a tutorial to the media about the new kickoff rule. And just seeing all of our but like, the picture I thought was funny was just Chill, Clarence Hill.
Yeah.
Just like.
Yeah. No. Could you repeat everything he just said?
No, absolutely not.
That's kind of like saying, can you name everybody in the Big Ten and do it in 1 minute? It's just a lot. It's very confusing. And yet I'm sure we'll get used to it. And I'm sure that I will, if I'm watching a game and I'll see something, I'm like, what are they doing? And yet Kyle just tried to give us a tutorial, so to speak, on the new kickoff rules. And a lot of the rules are trying to avoid the concussion, trying to avoid the collisions. And but the landing zone, so now you're going to have not pooch kicks, but kind of a higher kick that will hopefully land, if you're fortunate, in between the goal line and the 20-yard line. But that's too much for me. That's way too much for me. And I don't know if some of you are saying the same thing in the chat room. Kyle Yeomans will join us here momentarily. Craig, that too much for you?
I mean, it's not too much. It's like a 30-second video. It can't really be too much, but I think it's just going to take time watching it. I mean, I don't know, like we are all trying to figure it out, or if, for those of us who haven't figured out entirely, watching some of the preseason would help do that. You mentioned I haven't watched any of the preseason, but we need to see it. That's going to help to understand it. And so I think the more people see it, the better of an understanding there will be. But yeah, if you're not watching it actually happen and you're only going off of, a TikTok video, then yeah, it's going to be confusing at first compared to what you've always known for the most part. So yeah, I just think it's going to be like anything else, of you see it enough times and it's eventually going to become, secondhand, but it is different, and it is a big change, and it is, I don't know, something that is beneficial for special teams specialists. I don't know if this bodes well for your future if you're a kickoff guy or, a personnel type of like that, a special teams.
Punt returns are the same, right, though?
Yeah,
those are the same, but the kickoffs, again, are what they've really tried to crack down on. And I don't know, maybe there's been a tweak to the punt for all I know. I don't keep super close track of the NFL rules, but this one has obviously been talked about quite a bit because it is pretty drastically different from what we've always known. So, it's going to be unique to watch that this year.
CeeDee Lamb signed, right? That's why he's running late.
No, he was recording something with Nate Newton, and Nate is still going.
Well, we won't get caught. So that was cool. You want to play it again, the video again? Everyone can answer
He's going to call me if he gets done in the next couple of minutes. But, we'll have to push it. Because I do want to have him on because he did such a good job. And but I told him that I'll fight Nate in the streets if it takes that much. But I think that's a good – he's older now. I think I could do it.
I'll never forget, Nate, when we had him for weekly segments. And, I mean, he's just – you talk about just wide open. You look at a lot of the former Cowboys players as far as being critical of the Cowboys organization. Nate does work for them, but he's not afraid. Emmett is not afraid to say exactly what he needs to say. Aikman's not either.
Yeah.
You have.
I mean, really, none of them are.
Well,
Urban's
I think Michael and Dion can kind of.
Michael might pull a punch here and there because he's there. Like, they actually have him. You go in the stadium, he's the hype man.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch the video, and it's Jamie Foxx and Michael Irvin. And so he's maybe
Michael
a little bit
gets really
different.
emotional at times. He gets frustrated with him just because of Romo, I don't know.
I don't know how you could not have been critical at this point. Like, how could you not be critical?
No, everything went great this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, Michael was on the last Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
So how could you not be critical of
And all
of
the
them?
names I mentioned were,
But, I mean, some of them are more cautious than others. But, I mean, what's the repercussions? They're not going to allow Michael Irvin at the stadium anymore? Dion not allowed back around? Like, please.
No, because he's going to be the head coach with Shador, the quarterback, next year.
Hey, he might. I mean,
you know what? There's enough there that Jerry won't let that. He'll make sure that keeps going.
It'll be out there. So I was talking to my godfather the other night, and he was asking me. He's not a fan of Mike McCarthy, and he said, "You know who I would like to see? I would like to see Dion and be the coach because it looks like he's doing a good job at Colorado." And I said, "I mean, that's relative to." Yes, they won 3 more games than they did the year before.
They went from 1 to 4. That's 4 times.
So that's good. I mean, it's a work in progress. But he said, I think he'd be awesome to be the coach of the Cowboys. And while I've given up hope on a Super Bowl happening anytime soon because it's just the way things go. If they did bring in Dion to coach the Cowboys one day, at least that would make me entertained. Like it would.
Well, is he going to keep receipts on those who write bad columns about him and then not answer questions in the press conference?
He can't do that there.
No, that's not going to fly in the NFL.
No, it's not. They will destroy him.
And I don't know about next year, but I mean, there would be the timing of that with Shador for sure. And
that is at least.
I'm so tired of hearing about
kind of fun,
Dak's dumbass contract. Yeah. Like, I mean, oh God, when will he make his tens of millions? Like he's not going to be the starter on day one. Like I think that if it wasn't every single offseason there was contract drama, then maybe I would buy into it one time. But when Dak's contract has literally been a recurring theme in some form or fashion, whether he's tweaking it or getting it redone or whatever for like a decade now, like spare me the drama of Dak and his contract.
It's not Dak though.
But it has been at times, though, because Dak plays into everybody else's. And so it's like, well, we're paying Dak this much. That's why we can't give CD what he wants. And so everything revolves.
$50 million a year is what he's going to be getting.
For
3 or 4 years.
Pretty good play.
Maybe 60.
Yeah.
Maybe 60.
Depends on, okay, on the CeeDee Lamb thing, I heard Brian Broaddus say this the other day, and it was I believe it was Brian Broaddus. Somebody asked him about the CD. Brian Broaddus goes, let me ask you a question, okay? You think CD's going to give up $2 million or so a week by not playing during the regular season? No. The answer, of course, is no, because he's going to get $25 or $30 million, and of course he's going to get a huge bonus. No, they're not. Players don't like missing checks, and they're Significant others don't like them missing checks either.
And Dak's thing, I mean, yes, it's his agent has now clearly realized and knew it from the beginning that he was going to have the Cowboys over a barrel because of the way that Cowboys like to do things. And this is where he wanted them to go. And it's a pretty smart idea given the fact that, Jerry wants to push it to the end anyway. And you almost have the feeling now it's like, oh, did they not realize that, like, I was kind of bluffing at first, and if they'd given me the contract, we would have done it. But now that they crossed this date line, once they crossed that date line of, well, now I can just wait, and then I have them completely over a barrel, what do you think he's going to do?
I would think Dak would be dumb not to wait.
Yeah.
Because he's got to bet on him. He's already made millions and millions. Why not wait and then make it? But when was the last time the Cowboys lost a player because they didn't want to pay him?
Never. They've never done it, and they will.
I mean, when does that happen in the NFL really in general? I mean, I don't think it's all that
I
often
agree
where
with you,
lose a guy because you don't want – you lose a guy because you don't want them anymore or it gets to a point where, sure, there's times
contentious.
where –
like
exactly.
Kirk Cousins when he left Washington. It was done. They were done with him.
They weren't going to not pay him ultimately. Like they're – start from scratch and do what they've done since then? But, it was contentious, and he clearly did not want to be there, and – it got to that point where, but that's not where CD is. CD wants to be a Cowboy. Dak wants to be a Cowboy.
Yeah. They're not dumb.
It's all talk. It's just that I just roll my eyes at it because it's literally every single summer with Dak's contract in some form.
Every single morning,
and
there's
always there's Jane Slater and God love her and Kyle and Clarence
and Mickey
and oh my God, and they drum it up because it gets attention, and I get that. Like, we're in the same business. I know how it all works, but it's just like I've just seen the song and dance so many times. Like, you're not fooling me anymore. I'm not clicking that because I know it's all BS to begin with, and he's going to get his money, and he's going to be the quarterback. Now, if there was a situation where maybe they go, let's pivot, now that would reignite my interest. But in terms of that looking likely, that's like barely above 0%. If it got to like 25%, then count me in as far as wanting to hear about Dak and his contract. But I don't think it's anywhere close to being a situation where you're actually looking at anything different than what you have right now.
Now, some, and there's a lot of you that are like saying that Dak is overvalued, that he's made. No, his value is what the NFL.
Well, I see what they're coming from, though.
I get it.
Yeah.
No. Every single quarterback who's not maybe three guys is overvalued.
Yes,
right,
exactly.
So,
but it's a part of the supply and demand. And oh, by the way, if you don't have him, go back and watch Trey Lance against the Rams.
But that's not the conversation.
It's
the
not.
conversation is that he's not good enough for the money he's getting. But then to your point, so are a lot of other players and quarterbacks in particular are not that good to be getting what they're getting. But that's what the market says. So they are that good because the market says if you are just a bit above average or a lot above average, this is how much you make. And so exactly Dak is a good bit above average. He's better than a lot of other quarterbacks in the league. I don't think he's like the end-all, be-all by any stretch. And I do think hearing him getting paid like $50 million a year, I think that's crazy. But then again, there's some other quarterback who's getting similar that's nowhere near Dak's level. So it's just what the market is.
By the time he signs, and he will, whether it's 58 or
and then the
40,
summer after he'll renegotiate.
Within 3 months, there'll be two guys that are making more than him after he signs. So that's also taken into play.
Well, I mean, he's okay. Here's what they've done though, is that everybody else who's coming up for contract is now pretty much signed before him. Tua, Trevor Lawrence, all of them.
Right.
So now Dak is setting the market as opposed to. Those other guys, they could have pushed other teams into that. And Stephen Jones keeps saying, well, we can't pay this guy and this guy. You have all this. Like, no, almost everybody else does it. You guys are so bad at the salary cap. So bad at it. So bad. They have not figured it out.
Are they?
Yes. They're awful at it.
Okay, I want you to think about this. When we hear about they have 3 players who are all about to be or can be the highest at each of their positions, highest paid at each of their positions, or in the top 5. They drafted every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, and Dak Prescott. Do they not get credit for that?
They're good at the draft.
Okay.
They're bad at the cap. That's where it comes in. They're really bad at the cap, which is why they can't ever go and make that. Like, they made that Amari Cooper move, which was really good for them a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they should do those things more often, where you're not trading for 6 guys, but if you can go get someone who can clearly help your team at a position of need from a situation like Amari was in, where there's contentiousness and all of that, then bring them over. Like they don't do that.
They're not going to lose either. They're not going to lose any of the three players.
They're not going to lose any of the
All
players.
All of them will sign with Dallas.
But they're now in a position where they're going to have to rely a lot more on draft picks, and they're going to have to hit.
But they draft well.
They draft well early. They don't draft well middle round picks, and they're going to have to rely on those guys.
Did they not get credit for drafting Dak, though? They did.
Yes,
take
they do.
They do.
But I mean, like, the part of the reason
even though they wanted the guy from wherever he was from.
But they get themselves
Utah?
in these positions because they're bad at the cap, and then you have Jeff Heath for 6 years.
No, I get it.
You know, and like that's why you lose games.
One of the other problems is, and you're a Cowboys fan, and I know how frustrated you are. We talk. Everyone wants them to have all of these diamonds and glitz and glamour, and then they want to complain about having to pay them or the cap. They're the ones picking these guys.
No, I think that I'm happy with the way that they do that. Like their stars, they do that really well. They need to get better at finding a 5th round linebacker that starts. That's what they need to get better at.
Well, they have made what? How many wins? I know we got a break for the top 5.
12,
how many consecutive years have they won
3.
10 or more games? 12 wins.
Yeah, 1 game.
Yeah, a lot of teams would beg for that. But again, some of you on the chat room, my God, Dak makes too much. Sure, he does. We might make too much, but it's the supply and demand.
I do not. I do not.
When we come back. Oh, we have a loaded show tomorrow. But when we come back to wrap up today, Paul Catalina and his top 5. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. Right now, school going back in session. Some people have already gone back. Some kids have already gone back to school. But they continue to have their adult and youth tennis lessons. Britt Coleman has been around for a long, long time. He continues to do an incredible job when it comes to youth tennis lessons. They have the adult tennis lessons. At night, they have games. But one of the sports they picked up a few months ago, actually longer than that, a year ago or so, before it got red hot, is pickleball. They converted 2 of their tennis courts, and they have a beautiful facility of tennis courts, including a stadium court. They converted 2 full tennis courts into pickleball courts, and it is packed all of the time. No matter what day, no matter what time of the day, no matter if it's the weekend. Jody Thurman is the pro. They have pickleball lessons available. And, of course, if you want to work out and get fit, they have that too, with all the equipment you could ever imagine and classes to help you, group exercise classes too. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Welcome back. Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by TexasBeefHouse.com. Use promo code 365sports on checkout for a discount on your order. We continue with the top 25 offenses. We're in the top 15 now. And for all those of you who have been in the comments saying, Paul, why not my team yet? Why not my team yet? Maybe your team's better than 16 to 25. Or maybe you just don't know anything. One of those two things. It's fine to not know anything. Plenty of people don't know anything and wind up being wildly successful. Number 15, Kansas State. My Avery Johnson Valentine continues. Maybe one day he'll write back. But he's going to be fun offense alone. Their running backs, DJ Giddens, Dylan Edwards, in a run-first offense should be electric and fun to watch. Plus, Avery Johnson will make more plays in the passing game each and every week, and I expect their offense to be very tough to stop. And this is not a team you want to play from behind with, because I have a feeling that they could run and hide from you with that running game. And if you're down 13 points in the fourth quarter to Kansas State with a really salty defense and an efficient offense, you're probably not going to win that game. I mean, you're going to have to make some really big plays and hopes for some mistakes from that team, because this is a team that's going to be, I keep using the word efficient, but that's what Chris Kleiman is. He is the model of efficiency. Number 14, Kansas. We don't have to go too far. Jalen Daniels is electric. He's healthy. They've got Daniel Highshaw and Devin Neal at running back. They've got wide receivers that not enough people talk about. and Jeff Grimes takes over for Andy Kotelnicki. Will they take a step back on offense? I don't think so. I think he'll work very well with Lance Leipold inside that system, and we'll see the Jayhawks continue to put up big numbers on offense, and especially if number 6 stays healthy, this is going to be a very, very tough team to stop. Number 13, Memphis. Yeah, I put them at 13. Their offense is damn good. They've got a 4-year starter coming back at quarterback. They've got Ryan Silverfield at head coach. They've got a good offensive line. They've got good skill players. They've got good everything on offense, and I feel wronged by not being in the preseason top 25. Wronged. This is a team that's going to hang around all year and is my pick for the group of 5 for the playoff. Number 12, Alabama. Let's see what happens in the new Alabama offense. Let's see how they replace those wide receivers like Isaiah Bond who left. But Jalen Milroe's still there, and he was their offense by himself for a couple of games last year. I expect Kalen DeBoer and his staff to have them going on that side of the ball relatively quickly. They lost some of their depth, but they didn't lose talent. That's for sure. They still have talent there, and Jalen Milroe, one of the most athletic and exciting players in the country. That offense will be at least 12 good because – look, college football world, even though Nick Saban left, they got Kalen DeBoer. The offense of excitement is not going away. Here's the other thing that kind of switches up with Alabama from Kalen DeBoer, from Nick Saban. Nick Saban was a little more adverse to risk because he knew that it was probably not worth it, that they could figure it out on the back end. Kalen DeBoer, and this might not be the best thing, but he's kind of a take a shot, let's see what we can do kind of a thing. Like, let's get in a bar fight when it comes to 4th down and 5 in plus territory. So I think that's also going to help this offense put up some bigger numbers just because Kalen DeBoer is going to go, I don't want to see the punter. I don't like him. He can go, he can start reading the Hunger Games series during the season. I hope he finishes before it's over. Number 11. UCF. See, UCF, I told you. I told you a couple days ago I'd be coming back to you, and here I am. We're back. There you are. You're 11 on the list. KJ Jefferson, RJ Harvey, Penny Boone, Kobe Hudson, done. I don't need to say any more. Gus Malzahn, oh wait, I did. One of the best offensive head coaches in college football, in a run offense that should be really difficult to stop, and a pass offense that will be big plays all the time. And one of the dark horses to me to contend for the Big 12 is UCF with KJ Jefferson. People need to see it to believe it, but they have upgraded on that team, on that roster, all over the field, especially on offense, and this should be a fun offense to watch. KJ Jefferson, the closest comp to Cam Newton that Gus Malzahn has had since that year where, guess what he did when he had Cam Newton? Oh, he won the national title as an offensive coordinator. So we'll see. Should be a fun offense there in Orlando at the Bounce House this season. That's going to do it for this episode of Paul Catalina's Top 5. We're wrapping it up. The top 10 offenses coming at you Thursday and Friday.
All right, Paul, very nice. Medal, saying that 365 Sports is serious about Memphis and Boise. Today is a good day, a great day. And we've always, I think, for the most part, if you look at the amount of content when it comes to Memphis and Boise, among some other of the schools that are a part of what is called the Group of 5. So we've done that. It's good to be able to have Greg Gaston last week on Memphis, and today with BJ Rains, who was fantastic on Boise State. All right, thanks to all of our incredible sponsors every day that bring you what we have, because without them, we aren't here. Also, those who are behind the scenes. Garrett Ross runs the mothership. Emery Winter is working on 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW, and Jack McKenzie is always everywhere. For Paul Catalina and for Craig Smoke, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Every minute you give to us, we appreciate it. Never take it for granted. I'm David Smoke. Good night, 365 Sports.